Okay. Hi, Sakura. Hi, JS. Hi, Evie. Hi, Laura. Whisper to me, Dar's Cabins. Anna. Leah. See me. Hi, Catwoman. Hi, Evie. Hi, Miss Mary. Sybil. Wildlife. Kathy. Scarlet Rain. Deb on the Move. Wait, I'm trying to see if I'm on the right day. Okay, Ariel Mama. How's the puppy? Not good. Not good. Thanks, Evie. Sea Glass and Shells. Thanks, Ruth. Jokana, Julie T. You're watching the ad. Okay, Earthbound. Stephanie, Deborah, Save Robbie, Sharon, hi, Hetty, who else did it? Flower Girl. I don't know what's going on here. So, Kelly, Tamlin, Teacup, thank you. Thanks, Tamlin. All right, so let's get, yeah, I don't know. I can't talk much about it. To Scooter, hey, Kathy, how are you? All right, I'm not going to talk about Zoe because I can't. She's home, but she's not doing well. Not at all. And it doesn't look good. All right, so let me get to the, hold on, the trial. Let me get my stuff. Okay. All right, so today we're going to look at the transcript from the second police interview that they played in court today. And this is supposed to be the full transcript with nothing taken out. I found out they didn't have the other pages. That was it that we read yesterday. So, okay. This one was July 20th. And let's see. Interview of Brooke Skylar Richardson. At this one, Detective Gee, which is Katie, was not there. Instead, there is Detective Carter, and along with our Lieutenant John Fain. Now, he had some trouble. If you listen to the court proceedings today, you'll see that it was brought up by the defense that he had some disciplinary action. That involved some kind of sexual misconduct. We can go into that at another time. Had nothing to do with this case at all. Okay, but just that he had been demoted or he took retirement or something. He had scandal. Well, we'll go into that at another time. Let's go through this right now. So they walk in and Lieutenant Fain says, "It feels so much cooler in here. It feels so much cooler in here than it does." Detective Carter says, "Hi, Skylar. I'm Brandy. Katie can't be here, so she asked me to come. I'm friends with her, so she was like, hey, can you be me today?" Lieutenant Fain says, "She is friends with Katie, and she is a detective. Brandy's a detective that works with me, so she's here today to talk to you." Detective Carter says, "I'll just turn my phone off. Is your phone off?" Skylar says, "I don't have a phone." Detective Carter says, "I know mine will start going crazy." Lieutenant Fain says, "That's a mean question because we have her phone." Detective Carter says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Skylar." Lieutenant Fain says, the other day, the reason I did that, I was talking to her dad and I said, well, would you want me to call her direct on her phone, or do you want me to call you? And he said, don't you have her phone? I was like, oh my gosh, I do. I felt a little bit silly. Detective Carter says, you all right? What's wrong? Skylar says, I'm nervous. Detective Carter says, what are you nervous about? Skylar says something that's inaudible. She was almost impossible to hear. Let me tell you that their sound was horrible, and the reason their sound, I have like chocolate or something on this. Their sound was so horrible because he didn't bring his handheld recorder. So that was great. Good. So it was like really, really staticky. It was horrible to listen to. I don't know if anybody of you listened to it, but it was horrible. Okay. Then, let's see here. Where were we? She says, what are you nervous about? Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, it's a lot. It's a lot. Lieutenant Fain says, this, just like the other day, Skylar, as far as, I know you're super nervous. I understand. But just the way, Katie and I talked to you the other day, it's just the same thing. So, I think if you look back to Friday, if you remember sitting here with us, there wasn't anything real bad, or we never started yelling at you or anything like that. So we didn't do anything like threatening or menacing. So, and I understand that, but today's going to be just the same, okay? We won't be here as long as we were the other day, though. Skylar says, and I'll get to go home with my parents. Lieutenant Fain says, oh, yeah, now this was really weird. Because this guy, remember when I said, he says, I'm sorry, almost everything. I said, what does he have, like a hearing loss? He does. Okay, so he was in court. I thought he was trying to be funny in court. Everything that the son was said, the son, defense son, Sonny boy, how you want to call him, was saying, he kept saying, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Could you repeat that? And I'm like, oh my gosh, now he's getting, and then he goes, excuse me, I have hearing aids. I have a hearing loss. Let me turn them up. And then I felt like, okay, now I know why he does it. He does it on everything. I'm sorry. Skylar says, I'll get to go home with my parents. Lieutenant Fain says, I think so. Yeah, that's our plan. And that's what I just told your dad. Remember when we were outside? Detective Carter says, just take some deep breaths and just try. I know it's hard. I know it's a hard situation, but deep breaths. We've got some paperwork crap. Hold on one second. I just want to, I have my screen is, okay. We've got some paperwork crap we have to do with everyone, and then we'll talk. But just deep breaths. Lieutenant Fain says, and then you didn't know your Social Security. This is just the... Detective Carter says, no 18-year-old knows their Social Security, do they? Yeah, they do. Lieutenant Fain says, this is the same. This is the same thing that we did the other day. Are you still working right now? Skylar says, yeah. Lieutenant Fain says, is it at the Y? Skylar says, yeah. Lieutenant Fain says, which one? Skylar says, the atrium. Lieutenant Fain says, oh, you're at the atrium. Detective Carter says, what do you do there? Skylar says, I work in the child watch. Detective Carter says, what's your, like, are you in the infant room or in the toddler room? Or Skylar says, it's just called child watch. I watch everything from 6 weeks to 9 years old. Detective Carter says, okay, so you do it all. Skylar says, uh-huh. Detective Carter says, okay. Skylar says, do I get to keep my job? Detective Carter says, no, we're just asking you where you worked. It's just like conversation. Skylar says, okay. Lieutenant Fain says, we were talking amongst ourselves earlier. It was countryside. Was it Springboro? We're down in Lebanon, so the countryside, was it countryside, Springboro? Detective Carter says, how long have you been there? Skylar says, almost a year. I've been working there since September of last year. Detective Carter says, what's your favorite age? Skylar says, possibly the older kids, like 6 to 9 years old. Detective Carter says, yeah, I like that age, but they whine a little too much for me. I like them a little bit older. Lieutenant Fain says, Brooke, we're going to do just like we did the other day. I mean, Skylar, I see Brooke sitting right there, but you go by the Skylar. I'll read these things out loud, and then you're just going to put your initials there if you can. It's the same exact form that we used the other day. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before questioning if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statements. Okay, if you will read this one and then you agree with it, sign it. I'm not going to have you read it out loud because you did that the other day. You read it out loud. So if you just read that, but at least please read it, and then if you're okay with it, just sign your name on that first line when you get done. Detective Carter says, do you want water or anything? Skylar says, no, thank you. Detective Carter says, I just wanted to make sure. Lieutenant Fain says, 7/20 is the date. Detective Carter says, did you graduate? Detective Carter says, did you graduate yet? I hope so. Skylar says, Lieutenant Fain says, you're going to UC. She's going to go to UC. Detective Carter says, good school. Are you going to commute or are you going to live there? Skylar says, live there. Detective Carter says, that would be fun. Lieutenant Fain says, okay, like when you first walked in, I just wanted to ask you how things are going, but it's probably pretty rough. I mean, just waiting, or how are things with your mom and your dad? Skylar says, better. Lieutenant Fain says, have you guys had a chance to talk, or? Skylar says, yeah, I've been talking to my mom a lot. Lieutenant Fain says, a lot? Okay. Are they doing okay? I mean, I know this is really hard for you, but it's hard for them as parents too. Do they seem like they're doing okay, or? Skylar says, yeah. Lieutenant Fain says, okay, do they have a better idea of what's going on now since all this happened? You had a chance, and I'm just kind of curious. I mean, I kind of wonder for them because I know they were just really hoping to get some answers the other day. And I was like, well, it will be much easier, if you talk to Skylar, and you guys just talk. So what I will do right now is I'll kind of tell you what we've been doing since I last saw you on Friday. That was Friday, right? Yeah, Friday. So we took phones and stuff, and we're doing like what I described to you, the analysis of the phones and stuff. But then also the coroner's office has been working with the remains to do their part of the investigation, okay? And do you ever watch any shows like, the ones where they show the forensic anthropology stuff? I mean, because a lot of people do now, and you see some stuff that they can do, and it's like unbelievable how they can do this stuff, and then they just examine that stuff. So then they're like medical doctors who've been going to school probably half as long as you've been alive. So they've been doing this part while we're doing our part, and as a result of that. And then we have a lot of conversations, with the two doctors primarily that have been really been looking at those remains. We have some more questions, okay? Detective Carter says, Did you tell them to go ahead? Lieutenant Fane says, I'm sorry, again. Detective Carter says, the team. Did you text them? Skylar says, at our house? Detective Carter says, no, we've got another situation going on down at the main office, and it just kind of popped in my head before we kind of got started to make sure that, we told them to go ahead. He's like the only boss here. Lieutenant Fane says, and you have and it was inaudible. Detective Carter says, yeah. Do you want me to tell them? Lieutenant Fane says, yeah, can you? Detective Carter says, he's the only boss this week, Skylar, so it becomes, trying to make sure that everybody does what they're supposed to do. You know how that works, right? You've got to make sure that everybody's doing their job, even though the boss isn't there. He's our only boss. The other one is out of town. Lieutenant Fane says, okay. Also, they've been doing their part, and we stay in close communication with them while they're doing it, while they're doing their investigation. But as a result of the information that we're getting through the course of talking with them, like I said, we've got some more questions. And for lack of a better way to say it, we know that there's some more that happened than what you shared with us the other day, okay? And I'm just going to be honest. Again, I don't know how to say it any other way, but we know there was more that happened, okay? That's what you and I talked about the other day. So having said that, let me go back and kind of just replay, just so we refresh with you what we talked about, what you and I talked about Friday. We talked about, and I'll just try to paraphrase, and you can correct me if I say something that you don't feel like it's what we said Friday, okay? Skylar says, are you going to take me away? Lieutenant Fane says, I'm sorry. Skylar says, are you guys going to take me away? Lieutenant Fane says, wait a second. Why would you say that? Skylar says, I'm just so scared. Lieutenant Fane says, what? Skylar says, I'm just so scared. Lieutenant Fane says, okay, but listen. Detective Carter says, just breathe. Lieutenant Fane says, yeah, just try to be calm. Detective Carter says, we're just trying to find out what happened. Lieutenant Fane says, this is just like the other day. Remember, I kept telling you that just like nothing real bad. We're not here because you did anything bad like that or threaten you or nothing like that. We're just trying to find out, the truth for her. Remember we talked about that? And you yourself, it's like, I know she deserved better. Skylar says something inaudible. Lieutenant Fane says, so do we. Remember? So do we. I talked to you. I know you are a scared 18-year-old girl, that until Friday you carried this on your own, And we know that. And we talked a long time Friday, okay? And it never turned nasty or anything like that. It's not going to today, okay? But we talked how May 7th, and you were really certain May 7th is the day, right? That you delivered her, and it was in the bathroom maybe sometime in the middle of the night, because your parents were home and asleep, and you delivered her in the bathroom. She wasn't breathing or anything, but her eyes didn't open. There was no heartbeat, and you checked, right? You pushed. You didn't want to push too hard because she was a brand new baby, but you pushed just to check if there was a heartbeat. You held her for a little bit there on your lap, and then you wrapped her in a towel, and you went downstairs with her into the garage, got it's really like, I'm just going to call it like your mom's garden shovel or something like that. And you took her out and put her in that shallow grave right out there in the backyard, and you didn't put the towel in there, you just put her in there and covered her up. Okay? Is that, does that sound right? Like we talked about on Friday? Okay? Well, now where we are, obviously, you know, we were there a long time that day, and everything digging up, that's something's wrong there. Shouldn't be everything, it should be everyone digging up her remains and everything. But now, after speaking with the doctors who have been doing this, you know, they've been working a lot of hours with her remains, you know, just tiny bones by tiny bones and everything, and they have a lot of evidence that they have presented to us where we know now from a medical scientific certainty that they know there were other things that happened. So I want to know if you want to tell us, you know, more of the truth about what happened, because we know there's a lot more. Detective Carter says, we just want to put her to rest. We want her. Here's the thing. Listen, honey, I know this is a terrible situation, okay? Just listen to me, okay? You know, you're not the only 18-year-old who's been in this situation, that it's too late to have an abortion, and your entire life is about to be effed, okay? So just breathe. But the important thing about it is not me, not you, not him. What matters is her, okay? I think that you want to give her a proper burial, and you want to give her a proper final resting situation. But in order to do that, we need to know everything, okay? You cannot go back and change anything that you did, but we can have it out there, and you can just say it, okay? If you need to close your eyes to say it, if you need to, whatever. But it's very important that you tell us everything that happened, because the doctors already know, okay? They've already shared with us what's happened. Now, there's things we don't know, like why or kind of what you were thinking, or, you know, what would push someone to feel like this was their only option, you know? Skylar says, you think I killed her? Detective Carter said, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what happened when you decided that you were, before you buried her, okay? So all of those things we need to know, okay? They're going to be able to tell us medically what happened. So it's really important, because I want to know why. I want to know, you know, did you feel like that was your only option? Did you feel like you had no choice? You know. So those are some things that we need to know, okay? We obviously know she was buried because we found her. And then there's things that they can tell from the tissue and stuff that's left, okay? So we know that some things happened. I think you were trying to, I don't know, maybe minimize what was there, make it easier. I don't know, but there were some other things that happened before she was put in the ground. Let's talk about that, okay? Skylar says, the cord might have been wrapped around her neck a little. Detective Carter says, when she came out or after? Skylar says, when she came out. Detective Carter said, okay. So did you see it wrapped around the neck? Skylar says, a little, and something inaudible. Detective Carter says, yeah, so like it's around her neck. And what color was she when she came out? And Skylar says, white, I think. Detective Carter says, well, they're all white because they've got that sticky, goopy stuff on them. What about like her fingers or whatever? Were they pink? Were they red? Were they... Skylar says, I don't remember. Detective Carter says, that's fine. Where was the cord? Was it like here Or was it on the side? Was it wrapped all the way around? Skylar says, maybe just a little around her. Detective Carter says, okay. And what'd you do? You tried to get it off her, but you couldn't? And Skylar says, just a little, yeah. Detective Carter says, okay. It just wouldn't come off? Okay. Is it possible that she maybe breathed a little bit, like maybe, before? Skylar says, maybe. Detective Carter says, okay. So you tried to get the cord off and you couldn't. Was there a time, I've had a baby. He has not, but I have. So there's not just a baby that comes out. There's a whole lot of other crap that comes out. So is it possible that because you were on the toilet when you had her? Skylar says, yeah. Detective Carter says, okay, is it possible that she went down in the toilet for a second? Skylar says, yeah. Detective Carter says, okay. Skylar says, I tried to catch her, but I couldn't. She fell. Detective Carter said, there's no way, she's too slippery. It's too slippery. You can't catch her. Skylar said, she fell. She might have bumped her head a little. Detective Carter says, okay. So were you sitting on the toilet? Were you squatting over? Skylar says, were you squatting over it? Skylar says, I was sitting on the toilet. Detective Carter says, okay. So she falls in, and are you like in shock? I would be in shock if a baby just came out of me in the toilet. So how long do you think she was in the water? Skylar says, I can't remember. I don't remember. Detective Carter says, 5 minutes, 2 minutes. Skylar says, 2 minutes maybe. Detective Carter says, okay. Was she moving at all? Skylar says, I don't think. Detective Carter says, a little kick or anything? Skylar says, maybe, but I didn't look. Detective Carter says, well, it's hard to look at. So what did you notice that the cord was around her neck after you saw her in the toilet or before? Skylar said, everything just came out at once. Maybe just a little. Lieutenant Fain says, now sorry. Was she, I guess she was possibly headfirst into the toilet because she would have come out. So like how did she look as you looked down in the toilet and saw her? I assume there was water, probably the normal amount of water is in the toilet. So do you know what part of her head was under the water, if part of her head was under the water? Skylar says, I don't think, no. Lieutenant Fain says, okay. How did she look as you looked down into the toilet? Detective Carter said, maybe did you not look at her? I don't know. Skylar said, I looked, and then something inaudible. Detective Carter said, were there like bubbles or anything? Sometimes there's like little bubbles. Do you remember seeing any when you looked at her face? Was her face in the water or like to the side, or was it not? If you remember, okay, but she was head first. What you said, maybe she hit her head. Did you hear something like that maybe that would make you think that? Skylar said, well, she just plopped out. Detective Carter said, yeah, they come out pretty fast, especially when you're young. Skylar said, I think she might have hit her head. Detective Carter said, okay. Skylar said, I wanted to catch her. Detective Carter said, you can't. They're too slippery. Even like with a doctor, doctors have and Lieutenant Fain says, doctors have the hardest time too. Even when The doctor is sitting there, waiting. They still have the hardest time. Detective Carter says, they're covered in the goop. Okay, so maybe she was breathing. She was left in the toilet for a couple of minutes. If I say something wrong, you correct me. Don't, then did you, walk away? Did you kind of, stand back and think about, what am I going to do now? What'd you do? Skylar says, I kind of, inaudible, I was bleeding so much. Detective Carter said, a lot of blood. What about the placenta? It's big, it looks like a big thing of meat. Oh, gosh. What did you do with that? Skylar says, it came out a little after. Detective Carter said, okay, what did you do with that? Skylar says, I buried it with her. Detective Carter said, okay. Did the placenta go in the toilet, on top of her, or... Skylar said, no, it came after she was out. Detective Carter said, okay. So she was in the toilet for a couple of minutes. What do you do after she's in the toilet for a couple of minutes? What do you do with her? Skylar says, I put her in the towel. Detective Carter said, okay. Then what? Skylar says, I hold her. Maybe hold her too tight. Detective Carter said, do you feel like she was breathing and then you were holding her and you held her too tight? Skylar says, nothing. Shakes her head no. Lieutenant Fain says, okay. Skylar says something inaudible. Lieutenant Fain says, so can you describe for me, taking her out of the toilet? How did you take her out? Because you put her in the towel. How did you take her out of the... Skylar says, by her head. Lieutenant Fain says, you were sitting with your hands like you moved it to... Are you being careful because it's a baby? Or do you remember, where you lift her? Did you try to get, her neck? I'm just trying to picture her head first and trying to reach in, and Skylar says, I tried to get her carefully with my hand. Lieutenant Fain says, okay, and again, we're just trying to ask because we weren't there. And we're just trying to make sure you know exactly. Skylar says, I just wanted her to be at rest. Detective Carter says, nobody really fully, I think, rests in peace until, that's exactly what happened. And if you watch any of those shows, you see people 20 years later, family members are trying to find out what happened so that they can be at rest, and so can the family member that died. So that's all we're trying to do, is find out what happened so that we can put the medical stuff with what happened. And that's only going to come from you, Skylar. Nobody else was there. You were all alone. I know your parents were in the next room, but you were all alone. It was just you and her, so you're the only one that can help us. She can't, okay? So you need to do the right thing right now and just tell us everything that happened. Even if it sucks to say it, just tell us everything that happened and we can move on, okay? Lieutenant Fain says, Brandy and I, we talk to so many people that after the fact, they're like, that feeling came once they finally tell the truth and then they get it out, because I bet it has probably bothered you some, because I can tell that you care. It bothered you some since Friday, since we talked, since You knew I didn't get the truth, and you still had to carry that, carry that weight around with you. So like Brandy said, let's start there. So you picked her out from the toilet, and you wrapped her in a towel, and you held her easily, just be truthful, and let's go from there, and tell us the truth. Detective Carter says, you said something really interesting. You said you think maybe I held her too tight. Tell me what that means. And Skylar says, I didn't think she was breathing, and I squeezed her too hard. Detective Carter says, okay. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, I know. Skylar says, I squeezed her. Detective Carter said, it's okay. You can't, it's okay. You were trying. Skylar says, I think I'm the one who killed her. Detective Carter says, okay. Skylar says, I think I killed her. You think I killed her on purpose? Detective Carter says, Skylar, no one believes that. Skylar says, I squeezed her. I loved her. Detective Carter said, Skylar, no one believes that you would do anything to harm her on purpose. No one believes that, okay? Skylar says, I'm going to go to jail. Detective Carter said, listen to me. Lieutenant Fain says, sweetheart, we are just... Detective Carter said, those are not questions we can answer for you right now. Lieutenant Fain says, we are in the same place. We just are still, you're talking about a lot of the different stuff that the doc, we're just still trying to do right by her. We're so focused, like Brandy said, it's not me, you, or Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter said, it's about her. Lieutenant Fain says, it's important. Detective Carter said, did you give her a name? What's her name? Skylar says, Annabelle. Detective Carter says, Annabelle. Okay. Can I call her Annabelle? Skylar says, okay. Detective Carter says, so, it's about Annabelle, okay? You can't go back and change anything. I don't have a magic wand, okay? Skylar says, I'm so sorry. Detective Carter said, let's just keep talking about what happened, and then it will all be out and we'll be done, okay? Skylar says, can I go home with my parents? Detective Carter says, I can't answer that for you right now, okay? I don't know what will happen. I haven't finished talking to you, okay? All right? You think you squeezed her too hard because and I feel like when you say that, you thought she was breathing before and you didn't mean to. I don't think you meant to, but you squeezed her too hard. How long do you think you were squeezing her? Skylar said, just a little bit. Detective Carter said, okay, what makes you think you squeezed her too hard? Like, what makes you think that looking back now, not then, but looking back now? Skylar says, I squeezed hard, like, not so hard, but just like, something inaudible. Detective Carter said, and you think that's when she died? Skylar says, maybe. Detective Carter says, do you think maybe she could have been in the toilet? Or Skylar says, yeah, maybe, because I was spotting in early April, I was spotting. But Detective Carter says, but you don't have any health issues, right? You're pretty healthy. Skylar says, no. Detective Carter says, you're 18. Oh, okay. Did she look pretty healthy? I mean, you've probably seen babies before. Did she look pretty healthy? Skylar says, she was kind of big. Detective Carter says, yeah. Like, that's pretty healthy. I think that's a good thing when babies look bigger than you expect them to. You're not a smoker, right? Skylar says, no. Detective Carter said, that's good, because if she was tiny, that would have meant you smoked. Okay. Yes, that smoking can cause that, but that, okay. I'm not even going to get into that. So you think maybe that's when it happened, and then you're squeezing her, and then do you realize that that's when she's like not alive, or when do you think? Skylar says, no, I didn't think she was alive before. Detective Carter says, okay, so what did you do after you were squeezing her? What did you do? Skylar says, I buried her. Detective Carter says, before that? Skylar says, I just held her. Detective Carter says, tell me about the fire. Skylar says, what fire? Detective Carter says, there's some evidence to show that there was some burning on her. Skylar says, burned her? I promise. Anything. I didn't burn her. My dad has lots of bonfires, but I didn't burn her. Detective Carter says, there's been some charring and stuff on some of her bones, so Skylar says, I didn't burn her. Detective Carter says, are you sure? Skylar says, I swear on anything. Detective Carter says, are you sure? Skylar says, that I'm sure. That I'm sure. I'm sure of. Detective Carter says, you didn't, was there, did you burn anything around her? I mean, did you try to maybe melt the dirt or anything? Skylar says, no. Detective Carter says, was there any reason for any of that? Skylar says, no. Lieutenant Fain says, was there, I know you said the other day that there was no one else involved or anything, but was there anyone else? I mean, now that you're telling some more truth, you're telling us a lot more truth today. Is there someone else that helped you with this that day or anything? Skylar says, no, and I did nothing with fire, nothing. Detective Carter says, okay. Lieutenant Fain says, is it possible originally you put her in the fire pit before you? Skylar says, no. Lieutenant Fain says, I don't mean with a lit fire, but put her in there, in the fire pit. Skylar says, no. Detective Carter says, okay, not a fire. But what about some other heat source? Was there any heat involved in anything? This would have been after she was dead, so it's not Skylar says, no. Detective Carter says, no microwaves, no ovens. Skylar says, no. Detective Carter said, or nothing there's basically her bones there's basically her bones have, not all of them, but some of them have some charring, which means that there was some burning. And that's what we're trying to find out. And if there's nobody else involved and there's no one else that knew about this and you were all alone, unfortunately, Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, that's what we're trying to figure out. I think there's an explanation for what happened with something. I think there's some sort of way that we can figure out what happened with something, because, this doesn't just happen, that your bones get like that. And from all accounts, she looked like a pretty healthy, normal baby from what you're saying. I don't think, there's just no way it would just happen. So I was thinking, maybe you were just trying to kind of get rid of something, or I don't know, but I mean, you buried her, so it's not like you just threw her in the trash. as, so that's good. Skylar says, no, Detective Carter said, anything that you can think of, anything at all. Again, you were in shock. I'm sure it was a terrible, terrible night. You were all alone. Just think about if there was anything that could explain that. Because that's a medical fact. I'm not just telling you that, okay? I'm not, just making this up. I mean, something happened with some fire or some heat source. So we have to think about maybe you were out of your mind. I don't know. Something happened, but there was something with fire. Lieutenant Fain says, and Skylar, you're so close, and all we want is just the truth. And the reason that Brandy's asking these questions, and the only reason, is because there is forensic medical science where they have been through there some of what she said. Not all of them, but there are some different vertebrae and some ribs and some stuff that are charred. And then there were some fatty tissues that had burns on one side and not the other. So the doctors know that there was fire of some sort or some kind of burning. And they know for certain. And no matter what you tell us, we're never going to all of a sudden judge you or jump up and say, you're going to jail. We're not doing any of that. But there's still a lot more that we don't know. You're so close. Just give us all the truth that's left. Skylar says, and I have given you all the truth. I told you about squeezing her, and I think that maybe I might have killed her, but that Detective Carter says, it's not on her face. It's not on her upper body. It's all like lower body. So I wonder if maybe it was just one of those things where you just thought, maybe I can do this. Because I think with cremation, I'm going to have some ashes that I can keep of my daughter and keep those, because then you realize it wasn't a good idea because you're a good person. That's what I think happened, because there is some charring, but it's not all the bones. And I think you decided, okay, this isn't a good idea. This isn't what I want to do. This isn't what I want for my daughter. Lieutenant Fain says, Annabelle deserves better. And you just took her, and Detective Carter said, that's what I think. That's what I think happened, because her entire body is not charred. It's not burned. It's not like it's some horrific thing. There was some sort of fire, some sort of heat or something. And like I said, I don't think that you just, threw her in a fire. That's not what I'm saying. I don't believe that you would do that. I think there was some sort of attempt, and then you were like, oh gosh, this isn't what I want for my daughter, and then you stopped. Skylar says, at this point, I would tell you. Detective Carter said, we just need to know why there was a fire. Skylar said, the towel was black. Detective Carter said, no. This is actually like the bones. The doctors basically had said that there was some charring on the bones. Yeah. Did you maybe put them after she was in the ground, maybe some fire there? Or Skylar says, I took flowers from the fire pit. Detective Carter said, but they wouldn't burn the bones unless they were on fire. Lieutenant Fain says, you're so close, Skylar. Detective Carter says, we know. We know there was some sort of fire. Skylar says, I don't understand it. Lieutenant Fain says, yeah. And I know, the other day, I just wanted to do right by her. I wanted to do right by her. Well, we have a friend, we have these bracelets on that say, hold on, I just have to make this a little, my text is so freaking small here, hold on. Okay, that say 822. He was one of our best friends who was killed, and he was cremated because that is a very acceptable, and that's when I first heard that. I wondered, well, maybe she was going to try to cremate her because that's very acceptable, that's normal. It's in the Bible, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. I mean, we're cremated to get back to ashes, to get back to the original form we were created from. Detective Carter says, you can keep her with you. Lieutenant Fane says, and I know Annabelle was important to you, so you wanted to do it right. But then maybe it didn't feel right. So you're like, I can't do this. And then that would make sense why just part of it was, and just one side. So you take her back, and then you take her back where you can give her a more standard burial with flowers. But Skylar, we just need to, because the evidence tells us what the truth is, but you're the only one that can take us through it, and give us the why. The evidence tells us what happened, but we don't know, we don't know is the why, and you're the only one that can provide that, because even though it was hard, we both know, Brandy already, I can tell knows from spending a little bit of time with you. I've talked to you 2 times now that you were just trying to do the right thing by Annabelle, because I can tell you immediately loved her. So you're trying to do the right thing, but now the way to finish the right thing is just to help us. Get us all the way to the truth. Let it go. Let this off your shoulders. We know what happened. So please, just share the truth with us and help us understand it, okay? Just, okay? Detective Carter says, and we know it wasn't this horrifically weird thing that you might have seen on some Lifetime movie that you kids like to watch. But this is the thing where I truly believe that there was an attempt maybe for cremation, because if you cremate someone, you know that they have ashes. I have my mom's ashes, I like to keep them close to me. It's very important for me to have those. It makes me feel like she's still here, kind of. So I know you put her in the backyard so she would be close to you, but ashes you could carry around. So that's kind of where my thinking is. But we already know that there was some sort of heat, fire element. I don't know what happened. I wasn't there. But I know there was, because the bones were charred. And it wasn't something that, someone else could have done, because no one else was there. No one else knew. No one else was there except you. And you've had to carry this all by yourself this whole time and do it all yourself with no help. So don't think that we're going to judge you. Don't think that we're going to think you're some horrible person. I think I know where your heart and mind were, with the fire, whatever it was. I think I know where your heart and mind were, but you have to tell us, because I can't assume that I know you that well. But there, the evidence is there. There is no other explanation, It's not self-combustion. That doesn't really happen except on Mythbusters. So we just need to know what happened again so we can put her at rest. We can give her that final, we know everything that happened. We know, in that order it happened. And we can just put her to rest. Give her a proper memorial. You guys can do all of this with her remains. Skylar says, I didn't do it. Detective Carter says, well, I would assume your family is going to want to plan something when they get her back, but we can't release her until we know everything. So we kind of have to, this is the last mystery to solve, is the charred bones, to know exactly what happened. I mean, I think I know, but I don't know everything. So we need you to tell us. You were there. You know, it's not a judgment, Skylar. It's not anybody looking at you. It's literally you and Annabelle, and you're trying to do the right thing and fix whatever you can fix at that point in time. No one's judging whatever you chose to do then, okay? We just need to know what happened, and that's all. Try to spit it out. Tell us what happened. I'm not judging you. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, you've got to tell me. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Skylar. I don't want you to, I want you, I think I know based on what I know of you so far, but I want you to tell me everything that happened, everything that was going through your mind so that I can understand. I want to hear it from you. Skylar says another thing that's inaudible. Detective Carter says, you're holding her, you're squeezing her. What happens right after that? Just kind of walk me through, like everything. So you're holding her and you squeeze her, and then what? What are you thinking? Just kind of like close your eyes and put yourself back there and just walk me through it like I was there. I want to feel like I was there with you to know what happened. Skylar says, do I get to go home with my parents today? Lieutenant Fane says, I'm sorry. Skylar says, do I get to go home with my parents today? Lieutenant Fane says, I think so. Detective Carter says, we don't know what happened. We can't answer that. We have to finish talking to you. Lieutenant Fane says, we're still just, you're so close. We're still just waiting to hear. I guess all I can think about right now is Annabelle. I think about her remains. Just still being sifted through by doctors, and I think about your dad already contacting me, asking could he have her remains so you guys can do a burial, and I feel awful. But none of that can happen because the investigation just keeps going, and because we don't have the truth yet. And it can be weeks, for them to just keep going on and on and on, and yet I feel like you have the ability to give us the truth so quickly to solve these questions, and I want that to happen. I want to get her remains released. I guess I should say I want to get her. I think more of it as her. I want to get her released so your family can do what they want to do. Your dad is very sincere. I talked to him 2 days ago, and he's really just hoping that they want to do that so badly, and I want it for you guys. Detective Carter says, and there are so many questions, Skylar, that we can't answer until we know everything. Honestly, we aren't our own boss. We have bosses. We have all kinds of people that we have to report to, so I can't get an answer to any of those questions for you or anything about Annabelle until we know everything. We would have to know not just what happened, but why. What were you thinking? What was in your mind? What was kind of, going through your head? All of those things are important things to know. So I can't honestly answer those questions until we know what happened. We know medically what happened, but there's a big difference. I think you would agree between someone throwing someone in a fire and someone having a reason and some sort of justification for why that happened. Does that make any sense? Okay? That's what I know. You keep asking that question, and I honestly, if I knew the answer, I would tell you, but I don't. I don't know everything. I have medical information, and I have a little bit from you, and I have this huge kind of hole in the middle, and that's all I've got. So I don't ever want to lie to anyone, and I don't ever want to tell you something that's not true. So I can't answer that right now until I know everything that happened, okay? But right now it's about Annabelle. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's not about him. It's about Annabelle and knowing what happened. And knowing that someone didn't just throw her on a fire and then, that sort of thing. So I don't think that's what happened. Just walk me through. You're squeezing her. Just walk me through everything. Tell me everything that you were thinking and everything you did. Just so I know, like I was there. Skylar says, I thought I could cremate her. I had a lighter and just... Detective Carter says, Where'd you put her? Skylar says, in a bag. Detective Carter says, no, I mean like before the lighter. Where was she? Skylar says, in the ground. And I grabbed a shovel. Detective Carter said, okay. Was she... So you're holding her and then you grab the shovel and the lighter, like one of those camping lighters, or just like the cigarette lighter? Skylar says, just a lighter. Detective Carter says, like a clicker with the long thing? Lieutenant Fain says, like a long one? Skylar says, yeah. Detective Carter says, so, where do you take her to try to cremate her? Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, try to remember like where. Skylar says, she was in there. Detective Carter says, in the hole? So you dug the hole first? Okay. And then you put her in the hole? And then what did you do? Skylar says, I buried her. Detective Carter says, where'd you put... It's all right. Look, it is what it is. You can't change it, Skylar. Lieutenant Fain says something inaudible, and Skylar says, I'm so scared. I'm going to go to prison. Detective Carter said, you were telling us what happened. Nothing's going to change what happened, okay? But your intention was to try to cremate her. So what part did you try to light? Skylar says, I guess I just... Inaudible. Detective Carter said, what part of the remains? Like, did you start at the bottom or the top? Skylar says, at the bottom. Detective Carter said, okay. Lieutenant Fain says, did you have anything else or use anything to help try to light it? You know, because usually at the crematorium, there's things that make it intense to help the process. You didn't have anything to like any kind of lighter fluid or gasoline or anything like that to try to help light? Skylar said no. Lieutenant Fain says, I'm sorry? Skylar says no. Lieutenant Fain says, you didn't? Detective Carter said, like the lighter on the feet or something? Skylar said, yeah. Detective Carter said, I don't just want to put words in your mouth. Like feet, legs? I mean, you didn't put it on her face. Skylar says no. Lieutenant Fain says, and the towel was not on there, right? The other day you said it wasn't when you put her in the ground. So the towel was not on. I mean, I just want to make sure that's still okay. Detective Carter says, and then did the remains ever catch fire? Like, was there an actual fire? Skylar says, maybe. Lieutenant Fain says, maybe. Skylar says, maybe, a little, and something inaudible. Detective Carter says, okay. Lieutenant Fain says, was it dark outside or was it daytime? Skylar says it was dark. Lieutenant Fain says it was dark. Okay. Skylar says, I think, something inaudible. Lieutenant Fain says, okay. Are you telling us the truth when you say this took place right in the same hole where you buried her? Skylar says, yeah. Lieutenant Fain says, okay. No, I'm just asking just to make sure. I know you came out. I mean, like I said, you've been cooperative with me. Remember you came out Friday and you showed us exactly where she was and everything, so you know, which helped us, and it helped get her quicker, so it helped Annabelle. See, everything you do, every time you tell us the truth, it continues to help her because, like Brandy said, it fills in this hole and it just keeps making it smaller. And then we're going to get it all the way closed, and we're going to get her, back to your family where she belongs, so there can be a real, true burial where she's honored. And like you said the other day, you were crying hard Friday. You're like, she deserved better. She deserved better. You're right, she does. And she's about to get, she's about to get better. Just like she deserves better. Better than being in a lab with doctors, just searching and sifting and poking and everything, Now we're getting the truth from you, so we can be done with all of that. Can you, so tell, how big would you describe the fire? Would you say big? Would you say small? Was it tall? How, like, Skylar says, I don't remember. Detective Carter says, how far up did it go? Like, was it like to her shin? I don't, maybe your legs are super little, but like, was it like this much, like her chest area, stomach? Skylar says, maybe. Maybe I tried to put it out like. Detective Carter says, what made you decide you wanted to get it out? Skylar says, it was wrong. Lieutenant Fain said, it just felt wrong? Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter said, was she moving at that point or making any? Skylar says, no. Detective Carter says, there wasn't any noise or anything, it was just okay. Lieutenant Fain says, so when you tried to get it out, what did you do? How did you try to put it out? Detective Carter says, you didn't get burned, did you? Skylar says no. And then there's an inaudible shoo, like that. Lieutenant Fain says, just shoo, like try to get the flames like down, or Skylar says, yeah, just get it off. Lieutenant Fain says, okay, just try to do it quickly, and like you changed your mind. You said it felt wrong, so you changed your mind. Okay. I was hoping she wasn't going to do that. That's why. You said it felt wrong, so you changed your mind, and okay, which we understand. I can see that being a natural reaction. You didn't feel like it was right for her, was it? Were you successful? I mean, once you were doing that, were you able to put the fire out, or did you have to go get water or anything to help you? Skylar says, I don't think, Lieutenant Fain says, because a lot of times it's hard to get a fire out, even with just dirt. Skylar says, no. Detective Carter said, so you were able to get it out before it reached her face, maybe? How long? Just let me ask you this, because I know cremation can take a while. How long do you think, once you kind of started the fire, how long do you think that it went on before you just put it out? Like 10, 20, 30 minutes? I know you're out there in the dark and you're probably still in shock a little bit and all that, but Lieutenant Fain says, and not exact, and even you won't know an exact, a minute, 2 minutes, 45 seconds, 3 minutes, just Detective Carter says 30 minutes? Skylar says, inaudible, I don't think so. Detective Carter says, so at some point, let me ask you this. What made you, I know you said you thought it was wrong. What made you, I have to put this out, was it another thought? Was it as if it was getting closer to her face, or was it just, the smell, or was there another thing that just kind of made you realize, I shouldn't do this? Skylar said no. Detective Carter said, you just felt like it was wrong? Skylar says something inaudible. Lieutenant Fain says, what about, were you not concerned, I mean, just because, like, it's a beautiful place where you live, and I know it's kind of big, but it's open. What about someone seeing it? Were you worried about someone seeing a fire back there that time of night? And Skylar said, no. All that was on my mind was something inaudible. Lieutenant Fain says, I mean, as I understand, that's why I asked that, because that would be understandable if that was it, if that was true, because that's why I said earlier, if it was dark, that there's going to draw attention, and it's going to make you worry about someone coming out. And if you feel like you're doing something wrong and you're not going to want someone to walk out, and so you're able to get the flames all out, right? You were able to do that? Skylar says, yeah. Lieutenant Fain says, okay. And just by, are you sure you didn't use anything, any water or anything? You just got them out using dirt? Skylar says, dirt too, yeah. Okay, Lieutenant Fane says, using the dirt, what did you do next? Skylar says, I buried her. Lieutenant Fane says, and then what did you do? Skylar says, I put the pot kind of on top of her. Detective Carter said, then what? Lieutenant Fane says, which is the pot that was there when we went out? Which is the pot that was there when we went out? And Detective Carter says, then what did you do for yourself? Like, what did you do? I mean, at that point, you've been through a lot. So what do you do? Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, okay, is that where you put it, in the trash can thing outside? Skylar said, nodding. Skylar was nodding. Detective Carter said, okay, and you said you buried the placenta too, right? Did you put that in? What order did you put that in versus her? Skylar says, after, I think. Detective Carter says, was it after the fire or with the fire, or did you just kind of, you had an idea if that was in there or not? This is kind of a weird thing to kind of carry around, like it's an odd matter. I mean, was it, let me ask you this, was it still attached? I mean, like, did you cut the cord? Skylar said, the cord came out. I didn't cut anything. Detective Carter said, you didn't cut the cord from her? No, that's why she had to carry her in the bag. Okay, because she had the whole placenta attached, probably. Detective Carter said, because the cord is attached. I mean, was it still attached to the placenta? Do you remember? Skylar says, no. Detective Carter says, okay. Skylar says, I don't remember it. The cord, so the baby can be separate from the placenta. Did you ever, at what point, I feel like, you're a mom now. You had a kid. I know she didn't make it, but you had a kid. So you have that kind of intuition. At what point do you feel like she stopped breathing? Was it in the toilet? When you were squeezing her? Skylar said, I didn't think she was breathing when she came out. Detective Carter said, okay, what made you think that? Skylar says, I don't know. Detective Carter said, did you see her little chest rise even once? Skylar said, no, I wasn't looking at that. Detective Carter said, did her little toes move or anything, or fingers? Okay. Lieutenant Fane said, did you hear anything, like a little gurgle sounds? Like, Skylar says, I don't know. Lieutenant Fane says, like a little gurgle sound? This is important because I know you're telling us a lot of truth now. But it's been really hard to get to the truth, And like when we first asked you about the fire, that was just based on, not because we were there, but just based on all the evidence that the doctors gave us. When we first said that, like you leaned back and you were like, oh my gosh, no way. Skylar said, I know. Lieutenant Fane said, but then it turns out, you decide, okay, I'm just going to tell them that. So, this has Annabelle. She was a good size. I mean, she was a good size little girl. You're a healthy girl, And from that, it sounds like you had a regular labor, and it sounds like a fast delivery. It sounds like you kind of had a regular one, and you seem sincere, like you felt like you might have made her stop breathing. You said you felt guilty, and you felt like you might have accidentally killed her when you squeezed her so hard. Detective Carter said, that's why he's asking you why. Lieutenant Fane says, maybe the only way you're going to feel like you accidentally did that is if you had some reason to know she was alive before that. Do you see what Skylar says, so what are you guys saying? Lieutenant Fane says, I'm saying, Skylar says, like if anything, I second-guessed myself. Detective Carter says, no. Like what we were just saying is we were just trying to figure out what happened, and you said, you got really upset. and really kind of broke down and said, I feel like I killed her when I was squeezing her. Skylar says, I just didn't, like, there was so much I didn't do. I could have paid attention to. Detective Carter said, like what? What do you feel like? I mean, looking back, you can't change it, but looking back, what do you feel like you should have done? Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, maybe got her out of the toilet faster? Lieutenant Fane says, that's what I was going to ask Skylar. What was it? I mean, I know this pregnancy wasn't what you planned or anything, but I also know, I think that as of you being a mom, I think you basically felt like you kind of fell in love with Annabelle, right? When you first saw her, I feel that. I've never been a mom, but I do know now I don't think there's a stronger bond in the whole world than between a mother and their children, boy or girl, whichever they have. So Detective Carter says, you owe that to her. Tell. Lieutenant Fane says, I think you immediately fell in love with her, and you said you worried that you did something, and there were so many more things you could have done. You're just holding something back, I think that, I don't know if you heard her cry. I don't know if she whimpered, but there's something that you're holding back for whatever reason, and you're so close. And it's kind of like the fire, because it's so hard to say it. I think I can speak for both of us. I don't think you killed her, but I think you had signs that she was alive, at least just a little bit, But I don't think you killed her. But I believe that based on everything and talking to you, and I just believe that there were signs that she was alive at first. And then I don't think you tried to kill her, but I think there were signs that she was. And I want you to please, for her, just tell us what those were. How did you know at first, that she was probably alive, just a little bit? Skylar says, maybe I thought I saw her chest when I was cleaning up, and I don't know if Lieutenant Fane says, I'm not trying to get you to say maybe or anything, please share the truth with us. Skylar, you're so close, and you're so sincere. When you were worried that you did something accidental, we both know, we all three know you didn't do anything on purpose, but I know you were so sincere. Like one thing, Skylar, we talked to so many people, and if you could see yourself from across here, there are lots of things that you do, like when you get to that part, just your facial expressions, was that you're so sincere, like you truly felt awful, like you did something, but you didn't do it on purpose. So those feelings were genuine. But what there also tells me, for 100% sure, I know somehow she was alive, like before that. And that's why you're worried you didn't do something that could have helped. Skylar says, well, I think she might have made a noise. Lieutenant Fane says, made a noise? What kind of noise? Skylar says, maybe a little noise, a gurgle, but I didn't know if it was something else, like... And then I didn't hear another one. Lieutenant Fane says, didn't hear another one? Okay. Which is nature, because that's what, again, I'm not a man, but I've been in the room for 4 of them, and there's like kind of a gurgle sound, and then the doctors will suction out, that. Skylar says, yeah, but I didn't hear it again. Lieutenant Fane says, I'm sorry? Skylar says, I didn't hear it again. Lieutenant Fane says, okay. Detective Carter says, was that like when she was in the toilet, or was that when you were squeezing her? Skylar says, I think it was when she was in the toilet. Detective Carter says, you heard like one gurgle and then not another sound? Lieutenant Fane says, like she said that you thought you maybe heard one more gurgle? Skylar says, no, I said I didn't hear another one. I don't think. Detective Carter says, just the one. Lieutenant Fane says, what else? What else made you think that first she was alive besides the gurgle sound? Tell us about, because there's things babies will do, like, you see them getting ready to do that suction, like the second they first come out, and they're like, their arms are all kind of like this, or they don't. Skylar said she might have moved, but I didn't look right away. I was like in shock. I don't. Lieutenant Fane says, I understand. Detective Carter says, yeah, a baby just fell out of you. I mean, that would be shocking. Lieutenant Fane says, that would be shocking. You're doing this by yourself in your bathroom. Your parents are home. But when you finally did look, what else were you able to see or hear? Did you see an arm? Either arm move or both arms move at some point? What did you at some point when you did look? It's okay. We're just trying to I'm just trying to know. I want to be able to tell the doctor about what all the signs were that you saw. How do you know the baby was alive? Just a little bit. That Annabelle was alive. A little bit. I'm just trying to help that. Skylar says, I saw her arms maybe a little bit moving, and then something inaudible. Detective Carter says, was that also when she was in the toilet? Skylar said, yeah, I think. And I picked her up. I don't know what happened. Lieutenant Fane says, what about the legs? Because I guess they would have been the closest part. Skylar says, maybe, but the way she was squished up. Lieutenant Fane says, oh, okay. And when you say maybe, what does that mean? Because we're not trying to put words in your mouth, Skylar, at all. I know that you made it clear that she was alive at first. Detective Carter says, I mean, you know what happened. We know, you just have to say it. Lieutenant Fane says, it's okay. Like I told you, nothing changes. Every time you tell us the truth, nothing is changing, Skylar says, yeah, I'm just really ready for it to be over. I don't want to go to jail. Lieutenant Fane says, dear, I know you are so ready, and that's what's good, because you're finally, think about all the truth you've told today compared to what we were last Friday, okay? Detective Carter says, think about how proud Annabelle would be to have you as a mom for being honest about what happened. Lieutenant Fane says, it's okay. Detective Carter says, what'd you say? Skylar said, I'm scared. Detective Carter said, I know. Do you think that leaving her in the toilet is what stopped her breathing? Because I know you said you thought it was when you squeezed her, but Skylar says, yeah, I don't know. Lieutenant Fane says, or when you pulled her out of the toilet. I guess the way we'll know that, Skylar, is when you got her out of the toilet. Did you still have any more signs? And that's... So then there's... What made you think the squeezing did it? Or Skylar says, maybe I didn't think I saw a heartbeat. Lieutenant Fane says, I can understand that. It's kind of like shallow. I mean, a brand new baby's heartbeat is kind of different. And they're so tiny. You're not going to feel her wrist or anything. I mean, but when I would think especially when you did get her out of the toilet, you got her more upright and there was no water and everything. And then especially you may or may not get a gurgle sound. I would think you would probably have some movement or feel her like squirm a little bit as you hold her. Detective Carter said, if she was still alive then, we're just trying to figure out, was it, her in the toilet, that's when it happened, or because I know you said you heard the gurgle in the toilet and then you didn't hear it anymore. Skylar says, no, I don't think so, unless I didn't hear it because of the towel while I was holding her. Detective Carter says, at what point because there's always that defining moment. At what moment did you know she was gone? Because you can just, people kind of turn different colors and you can tell. Skylar says something inaudible, and Detective Carter said, "You just didn't look at her." Okay, that's a very honest answer, Skylar. Did you look at her like you did ever look at her face? Just that was something you were trying to avoid? Skylar says something inaudible. Lieutenant Vane says, do you remember if she had any hair? Skylar says, yeah. Lieutenant Vane says she did. Okay, because some babies have a lot, some fuzz, and some have more. So do you think that she did? Skylar starts nodding, yes. Lieutenant Vane says, okay, what color was it? Skylar says, dark maybe? Lieutenant Vane says, just dark? Skylar says, maybe. Lieutenant Vane says, okay, it's okay. Detective Carter says, just breathe. Skylar says, I want my mom and dad. Detective Carter says, I know, but I don't know if they're still here or if they ran to get something to drink or not. Lieutenant Vane says, I think they were just going to wait. Detective Carter said something inaudible. Lieutenant Vane says, in her face, could you tell, in her face, did she look like you? Did she... Sometimes it's hard to tell with babies, but because they kind of just look like themselves. But did you feel she kind of looked like you when you saw her face? Skylar says something inaudible. Or like one of your parents or anything like that? Detective Carter said, so probably, well, not probably. What I'm hearing you say, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is there was no movement or signs of life after the toilet that you remember. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, well, you're not a doctor. I don't expect you to be able to, I just wanted to be clear about it. What point you thought she was gone, that's all. I just kind of wanted to know for her. Lieutenant Vane says, let's ask it this way. Skylar, how long? And again, I don't expect you to know exactly, but how long do you think she was alive? Just your closest guess. I know you're not sure how long she was in the toilet. How long would have been your closest guess to how long she was alive? Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says a lot. It's a lot to do with a team of doctors, let alone by yourself. So I get it. Just try to think so that we have an idea on how long she was alive. Skylar says something inaudible and then says, yeah, maybe. Detective Carter says, okay. And I know you said earlier you thought maybe, and we're not holding you to it, Skylar, but maybe she was in the toilet a couple of minutes while you were kind of freaking out. Okay? That's all right. Okay, that's fine. Just breathe. You're going to keep breathing. Take deep breaths. Skylar says, are we almost done? Lieutenant Vane says, I think so. We're getting close. Detective Carter said, do you want some water now? Do you want some water or something to drink? Skylar says, I want to go home. Lieutenant Vane says, this is where we are at. This is the last thing, Skylar. When I say this is where we're at, this point is the last part because we're just trying to figure out now, this is how long she was alive. We know that you had some indications that she was. We also believe that you did not do, babies are born and unfortunately die shortly after they're born. And it happens literally every day. I hate to say that, but literally happens every single day. And I'm just saying, just trying to get a close idea to it. Do we think of it was 2 minutes? Do we think it was 5 minutes? Do we think it was 10 minutes? It doesn't change things if it was 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Skylar says, I can't remember. It was so long ago. 5 minutes and something inaudible. Detective Carter says 5 minutes that she was alive or 5 minutes that she was in the toilet. Skylar says maybe she was alive. I don't know. Detective Carter says, okay. Skylar says something inaudible. Lieutenant Vane says, was she ever loud enough that you were worried that somebody might hear her? Skylar says, no. Lieutenant Fane said she wasn't loud enough to? Skylar says, I don't think so. Lieutenant Fane says, you don't think she was? Or because I know in your house, you're upstairs, you're in the bathroom, and it could, the rooms are kind of close. I mean, did she cry? Because if she was alive that long, I would definitely expect that she would cry at least a little bit. I mean, but it wouldn't be very natural if she would cry. It would be very natural if she would cry, and I think you would know that because moms, they're more sensitive to their bodies, to their babies crying than anyone, and this is Annabelle, and you're her mom, and did you hear her cry? Skylar says, maybe a little bit, but she was in the water. I don't know if I heard right. Lieutenant Fane said, it's okay. Skylar says, I mean, just a gurgle. Inaudible. Lieutenant Fane says, you didn't kill her. Now, we're just trying to get the truth so we can bring her home, okay? Skylar says, yeah. Lieutenant Fane says, we told you so much. We're not trying to be mean to you or judge you. Skylar says something inaudible. Lieutenant Fane says, we're not. We won't. No matter what you say, it's not going to happen. No matter. We've both been doing this for so long. We're both parents of kids older than you. Where neither one is going to all of a sudden become something different. So no matter what you say, it's not, we've got children, even children we've never met, So we've just, in the same situation, I think where your parents are, and I can tell you now that you are just wanting to get all the truth out for Annabelle, because like you said, Skylar, she deserves it more than anything. She deserves it more than anything. When you were on that, or is it that's what made you worry about the squeezing? I would assume it was the crying that you heard that was right before you squeezed. Skylar says, I think. Lieutenant Fane says, did you hear any crying after, or did you hear, Skylar says, just a little crying. Lieutenant Fane says, a little cry? Skylar says, maybe just a little crying. Lieutenant Fane says, okay. Was that in the toilet or outside the toilet? Skylar says it was in the toilet. Detective Carter says, okay, you've been pretty consistent about the fact that the only noise you really heard was when she was in the toilet. Is that right? Skylar says, yeah. Detective Carter says, okay. The only movement you saw was when she was in the toilet? Skylar says, yeah. Detective Carter says, I don't think she strayed from that. I know you were worried about squeezing her and holding her, but the only noise you heard her make was in the toilet. Is that right? Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, okay. Is there anything else we need to know, or that we need to know about Annabelle, or that Annabelle needs to know from you? Anything you can think of? Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, I know. You're her mom. Is there anything else that you feel like you need to say, or like you need to bring forth for Annabelle? We're not going to judge you, obviously. Lieutenant Fane says, I'll be back in a second. Detective Carter says, you feel like you told us everything? Because we know everything. He probably has to pee. Oh, she said he probably has to pee. He's old, so he has to pee a lot. Do you feel like so when you face Annabelle up there, you told us everything, like we need to know. You told us everything. There's nothing else, okay? Skylar says, am I going to jail? Detective Carter says, I don't know what's going to happen. That's not up to us, okay? Do you feel like, you keep saying that, do you feel like you should be? And Skylar says, I'm so scared. I don't think I should. I tried. Detective Carter says, okay, I don't know what's going to happen, because these are decisions I can't make, because that's not what I do. But I will tell you that, you being honest with us here today and cooperative and telling us what happened for Annabelle, that's what matters, okay? I don't control the future. I don't know what's going to happen to you. I know that, you're a young girl and you've got your whole future ahead of you. You just need to think about Annabelle. And Skylar says, yeah. Detective Carter says, okay. And be proud of yourself for being honest today, because a lot of people would have lied. A lot of people don't care about their kids. If their kids would have lied. Okay? Obviously, you were honest. Okay? You obviously care about Annabelle. You're worried about, her resting, and you worry about her. But this will help the doctors get everything processed, and then they can get the remains back to your family, and then you guys can plan whatever you guys want to do. What do they want to do? Do they want to do a funeral? Skylar said, I want to do a funeral. Detective Carter said, what do your parents want to do? Skylar said, I'm not sure, and then something inaudible. Detective Carter said, we're just waiting for him to come back, and then, like I said, I think we are the only ones here. I don't know if there is anyone else here, so we're going to have to wait for him to come back. I think they ran up to Speedway. They said they were going to go get something, but I don't know. Actually, my phone's been on the floor while we've been talking. I'm sure you've heard it buzzing like crazy. I heard my phone going off, but hell, it could be anything. What kind of schedule do you work for the Y? Do you work like full time? Skylar says no. Detective Carter says no? Okay. Skylar says 2 days a week. Detective Carter said how many hours? Skylar says 4 or 5. Detective Carter said, so is it like recovering from the birth? Was that hard? I know there's a lot of bleeding, lots of bleeding. Did you have any complications? Are you worried about anything with your body or anything? Okay, feel okay. Don't feel like you need to see a doctor. Have you seen a doctor since? Skylar's just shaking her head. Detective Carter says, okay. Do you feel like you need to get checked out and make sure you're okay? Skylar shakes her head. No. Detective Carter says, I know when I had a kid, I was 21. I felt like my entire insides were falling out, so I saw a doctor. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, I think that might be what he's doing. I'm not sure, so he's not texting me, so I don't know. Skylar said, so I'm stuck in here? Detective Carter said, you and I are both stuck in here right now. I can't leave either. I'm guessing your parents don't know anything about what we talked about today. Skylar said, I'll talk to them. Detective Carter said, I'm sure they'll want to hear from you. Something inaudible. I have a 19-year-old. I know it would come better from me or from my kid than it would someone else. So it will be a difficult conversation to have, I'm sure. I think you're an 18-year-old girl who just had a terrible situation that maybe they made some bad decisions and they have to deal with, I mean, you're young. You were all alone. You never told anyone. I don't think I could keep that, is a lot to keep to yourself, Did you ever want to tell your parents? Yeah, were you afraid they would be mad at you? Or, yeah, it's a lot to keep inside for a long time. Skylar says, am I going to go to jail? Detective Carter says, that's my judgment call, like I told you before. That I don't judge. That's not there should be that not. I feel like there's a whole host of things that were going on in your mind at the time, and that's really not up to me to decide, I've not been in your shoes. I was young when I had my daughter, but it was a different set of circumstances, I don't know. I don't know your family. I don't know if you have the kind of parents that, like mine, probably would have killed me if I got pregnant. I really would have probably been in fear to tell them, but I was out of the house when I got pregnant, so it's a different circumstance. I do know, like I told you before, Skylar, this isn't a situation where you had her and you threw her in the trash. You've seen that on the news. People just throw their kids away with the trash. You didn't do that. You tried to cremate her. You tried to bury her. You tried to keep her close to you. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, I don't know if he's talking to them right now or not. So we have to wait for him to come back here. I don't know. Skylar says, do you think they'll take me away today? Detective Carter says, no. He might be talking to them right now. I don't know. Skylar says, But do you think they'll take me away? Detective Carter says, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. And then something inaudible. There he is. She's just worried about her parents and where they were. Lieutenant Fane says, that's where I've been, talking to them. Detective Carter says, I told her you were talking to them. Lieutenant Fane says, I was talking to your parents, I haven't told them what we talked about. I mean, I didn't tell them anything that we talked about today. Skylar says, yeah, I need to tell them. Lieutenant Fane says, I didn't tell them literally anything that we talked about today. I just told them that your dad, I said, like I told you when I first called you, we had more questions that came up as a result of the coroner's investigation. I said, we're speaking with Skylar. I said, she's being honest. I said, still just a very remorseful young girl. You're remorseful. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure a very remorseful young woman and still a scared girl, but she's helping answer a lot of the questions that, resulted as a result of the examination from the doctors. And I said the stuff she is, she's helping us understand. So, and that's where we're at. Skylar says, okay. Detective Carter says, she just expressed that she wanted them, what? Lieutenant Fane says, and I said, you're 18 years old. If you were still 17, but you were close. This would be a completely different situation, but that's what I was telling your dad. I'm sorry. I said, I'm sorry. It's not, I don't have a reason to tell them that you've earned the right because you're 18 years old and you're Annabelle's mom. You have the right to be the one, to do that. And I know it's going to be hard, and I know that, I'm sure, but Detective Carter says, do you want to do that here? Like, do you want her to talk to them and tell them, like Skylar says, do I get to go home? Lieutenant Fane says, she's asking you how you, Detective Carter said, I'm not asking you if you want to do it here with, Skylar says, no, I want to go home and tell them. Detective Carter says, okay, you don't want to do it here, I'm just asking. I would want you to do it here because I wouldn't want you to be alone with them. I mean, but I was just curious, okay? So do we have a plan from here? Lieutenant Fane says, I have a lot of bottles of Diet Pepsi, so I need to step out to the restroom. That's my immediate plan. I'm sorry. Detective Carter says, do you want some water or anything? Skylar says no. Lieutenant Fane says, if that's too much information, I guess he's sorry, but I'll be right back. Detective Carter says, I know. Skylar says something inaudible in here. Detective Carter says, I know, me too. Skylar says, do I get to go home? Will I go to prison? Detective Carter said, you won't. No, prison is like after. Like, you'd have to go to court first before you would go to prison. You'd have to go to court and talk to the judge, and they'd have to be something inaudible to go to prison. Prison is like you go to serve your time if you get time. You'll either go home, you won't stay here, either you'll go home with your parents or you'll stay in jail in Lebanon. But it wouldn't be, you won't go to prison. I don't know if you'll ever go to prison. It's up to the judge. Skylar says, will I have to go to court? Detective Carter says, I think so, probably. I don't know for what yet, though. That's the thing. There are all these decisions that somebody with a law degree makes. You'll probably have to go to court. It could be for any number of things, but yeah, you may go to court. That's your opportunity to talk to the judge, like you talk to us, Skylar, and be honest. And do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's going to be your biggest thing, is that you want to deal with what's happened. You care about Annabelle. Skylar says, do you hate me? Detective Carter says, I don't hate you. I'm worried about you. I think you did the right thing. That makes me not hate you. Like I said, you could have thrown her in the trash. You could have come in here and lied. You could have said, I don't give a shite about Annabelle. You didn't. You came in here and you told us what happened, right? You told us what happened because you care about her. Skylar said, I want my mom and dad. Detective Carter said, what do you think? How do you think they're going to feel after you tell them what happened? I don't know them, so... Skylar said, maybe they'll understand. Detective Carter said, understand what? Skylar said something inaudible. Detective Carter said, Skylar, you're 18. You've got a whole life in front of you, like I told you. You don't have a magic wand. I don't have a magic wand. Neither of us can erase what happened, but you can deal with it, whatever that means. I don't know. You deal with it, whatever that means. You have to get through it. You learn from it, and then you move on. You have a whole life ahead of you. You're 18, okay? You have a whole life ahead of you, and then you'll be old, like me, at 41. And then this will all be behind you. It won't take that long, but I'm just saying, you know. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, when you're 41, I don't think so. Skylar says something else inaudible. Detective Carter says, no, they don't keep anybody here. This is just like they have rooms here, just like have rooms here. Skylar says, well, they're going to put me in jail for it? Detective Carter says, I don't know. I don't even know if you're going to jail. When did you turn 18? Skylar says, in March. Detective Carter says, March what? Skylar says, 9th, and it's inaudible. Detective Carter says, I don't know if he's out there talking to your parents again, or... Skylar says something else inaudible. Detective Carter said, I bet you do. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter said, it's pretty scary. But I'm here. I'm not going to go anywhere. He knows what's happening. Skylar says, hold my hand, please, and something inaudible. Detective Carter says, you'll get through it. You're going to get through this, Skylar. You know, you'll get through this. You will. This does not have to define the rest of your life. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter said, I can't inaudible him, but I can stay with you. But as soon as he comes back in, okay? I'm not allowed to leave you here alone, okay? I want to make sure you're safe. I know this feels like the end of the world right now, but you just have to get through it. Face it. Get through it, okay? You can't change it. You can't fix it. You can't go back and do anything different. You just have to get through it. Skylar says, I know. Detective Carter says, that's how life works. We've all screwed up. We've all done stupid stuff. You just have to work through it. Take whatever consequences there are and just move forward. Skylar says, yeah. Detective Carter says, you're 18, okay? You've got your whole life ahead of you. You'll get through this. It will change you. You'll be a completely different person, but you'll get through this and you'll move forward. And one day at a time, right? Welcome to being an adult. It's not as much fun as they make it sound. What's your mom's name? Skylar says, Kim. Detective Carter says, Kim. What's your dad's name? Skylar says, Scott. Detective Carter says, Scott, okay. You're their only child? Skylar says, no, I have a brother. Detective Carter says, how old is he? Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, are you guys kind of close in age? Does he live there with you then? Skylar says, nodding. Detective Carter says, did he have any suspicion that you were pregnant or anything? Skylar shakes her head no. Detective Carter said, did anyone? Skylar shakes her head no. Detective Carter says, I think it would be hard to hide because you're so tiny. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, yeah, you could just do that anyway. Skylar says, yeah. Detective Carter said, big sweatshirts, hoodies. Skylar says, yeah, something inaudible. Detective Carter said, you need some? My fingers are cramped up. No, you're fine. You're fine. They're just cramping a little bit. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter said, that's not our call. We're just trying to wait and hear what they want us to do. Skylar says, yeah. Detective Carter says something inaudible and then says, no matter what happens, one day at a time, right? 1 minute at a time if you have to. Take it all, you know. It will be okay eventually. Not right away, but eventually. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, of course. Skylar says something else inaudible. Detective Carter says, honestly, Skylar, I do not know. I mean, I honestly don't know until we finish our interviews with people and keep them talking and know all the facts. And then we call our boss and we say, what do they want us to do? It's not even our decision that we make. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, I don't know. I don't think it'll be too much longer. I'm not sure what they're going to do. I'm assuming that they're waiting for a phone call, but there are decisions that are made by other people, not us. They tell us what to do. It's pretty much how life works. Everybody has a boss, right? Well, the worst thing Skylar says, what's the worst thing that's ever happened to you? And Detective Carter says, well, when I was 20, my mom was killed. Skylar says, how did she die? And Detective Carter says, my stepdad killed her. And it sucked for quite a while. And then it got better. At the time, however, I thought that my life was over and I was not going to make it. So that might be how you're feeling today, like it's over, like life's over. I know, it's not true though. You feel that way though. I know as a mom, I've been telling you that you shouldn't feel that way or that it's not going to happen or help, but it does get better. It takes time. I really want you to hold on to that knowledge though, that you did the right thing and you told everything. I think that's far more important than anything else because you have to live with that. If you would have lied and continued to not tell the truth, not really put everything to rest, you would have to live with that, It's important. You did the right thing for Annabelle, ultimately for her, for you, for your family, what they know happened, and for you, so you don't have to live with it all by yourself. It's a lot to hold on to when no one's with no one else knowing. I think it might have initially made you really hard just keeping all of that inside. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, I don't know, something inaudible. That's all up to a judge. They don't make that decision here. Skylar said, I was just asking. And then Detective Carter says, well, it depends on what you're charged with. I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't know what charges there would be and all of that. I mean, Skylar said, can I be here for life? Detective Carter says, I don't know. I don't think so. I can't, like, your whole life, like forever until you die. I don't think so. It's really unlikely, but it's not up to me. It's up to a judge who you'll have the opportunity to talk to, the person that makes those decisions, Skylar. You'll have a chance to talk to. I'm just going to be on the other side of the door, okay? Just right here. Okay, so here's the deal. She comes back in. I think you already know you're not going home. We just got the answers. So my question for you is, you've been so cooperative with us. We want to extend you every courtesy. Do you want to talk to your parents here before you go? Do you want to do that, or do you just want to wait and talk to them later? It's totally up to you. Skylar says something inaudible, and Detective Carter says, that's up to a judge, like I told you. I'm not BSing you. All these decisions from here on out are up to a judge. So when you get out, but my question's now, which we control is, do you want to have a conversation with your parents so that they understand why you're going, or do you not? It's up to you. You're 18. You can do whatever you want to do. Do you want to talk to them here? We would be in the room just to make sure that We have to make sure everyone is safe. Do you want to talk to them here, or do you want to have a conversation with them later? That is up to you. No one's judging you. Whatever you decide to do. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, I mean, if you want to talk to them. The problem is, if you want to talk to them, they're going to want to know why you're going to jail. We have not told them anything. You are 18. We have not told them anything. Lieutenant Vane says, yeah, I haven't told your mom and dad anything. Detective Carter says, they know nothing. They don't know you're going to jail. So Lieutenant Vane says, all I told them was that there's more evidence due to forensic examination, just like I told you when we started. I said, and Skylar's I feel like she's being honest. That's all I told them. I said, Detective Carter said, that's why we wanted to know if you wanted to talk to them or not. Or we can just tell them that we can't tell them anything because you're 18 and that you're going to jail. And they're going to see, I'm just asking you because they're going to see, they'll eventually, you know how the news is. You know how they've already been. They're ridiculous. So they're going to see whatever they decide to charge you with. They're going to see that. So it's up to you if you want to have that conversation over the phone when you're in jail, or if you want to have it here before you go. We're just asking what you want to do. It's up to you. We can tell them whatever you want us to tell them. We don't have to tell them anything because you're 18, but it's up to you if you want to talk to them here, or you want to they can find out later. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, eventually, we talked about that. You're 18. One day at a time. But yeah, at some point you'll talk to a judge and he can decide what conditions that you can go home on or what's going to happen. It's all up to the judge, the dude that wears that black robe, not us. Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, yeah, but they're going to ask you. Skylar says something else inaudible. Detective Carter says, that's part of it. Lieutenant Vane says, but we can't speculate what it will be like, okay? You may be here and they may ask you and you could say, I did this, is up to you because I don't want to talk about it. I wanted to see you before they took me. That's... Detective Carter says, you can tell them as little or as much. You're 18, so you can. You can say, I'm done. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I just want to say goodbye. And we can make them leave if you want. Skylar says, will there be a trial? Detective Carter said, that's all down the road. Lieutenant Vane. Skylar says something inaudible. In jail. Detective Carter says, no. What's going to happen is you'll see a judge in a couple of days, okay? And Lieutenant Vane says, what is today? Detective Carter says, today is Thursday. Lieutenant Vane says she will see a judge at Franklin Court tomorrow, probably because they have Friday. Detective Carter says, yes. Lieutenant Vane says, you will see a judge tomorrow. Detective Carter says, so you'll be able to talkish to a judge tomorrow. He'll decide if you're going to stay in jail or not, and then there will be a series of court things that happen after that, okay? It's not all immediate, but it's always up to the judge when you're going to get out of jail, okay? Skylar says, okay. Detective Carter says, but you will talk to a judge tomorrow, okay? Skylar says, I want to say goodbye to my parents. Detective Carter says, you want to say goodbye? Okay, I'll go get them. Lieutenant Vane says, I'll do it. Detective Carter says, one day at a time, okay? Skylar says, one day at a time? Detective Carter says, one day at a time. Skylar says, do you think the judge will be nice? Detective Carter says, judges are usually just pretty especially the first time, you talk to him, it's really going to be very, his job is to make sure that these are what your charges are. Do you understand these? That's going to be his role. And then, figuring out where to go, what to do from there. So it's not going to be very long tomorrow. It'll be pretty quick. And then the hearing after that, once you get an attorney, all the court system, you know, whatever happens, then things will be a little different. So it's just a whole process that happens. Skylar says, will the judge possibly let me come home? Oh gosh, she scared me. Zoe, oh my gosh. Poor little thing. Detective Carter says, yes, sometimes they'll do like you have to put up a bond, like your parents would have to put up a bond. The judge decides all that. He might have you be like out on, have you ever seen those people have monitors on their ankles? Sometimes he does that. Sometimes you're on house arrest. Sometimes, you know, there's all kinds of things that can happen. He could release you. He could keep you. He could tell you where you are allowed to go or not go if you're released, all of these kind of things. So there's this whole list of things the judge can do, and he pretty much makes those decisions and tells you what to do. Skylar says something else inaudible. Detective Carter says, they're jail clothes. I mean, they're not prison. They're just, I mean, they're just scrubs. You've seen scrubs before, right? Yeah, they're just scrubs. Different colors scrubs. They'll do all that when you get there. Do you have anything in your pockets that you want your parents to take? Like anything at all? Jewelry that, you know, you want them to take? Skylar says something inaudible. Detective Carter says, no, they'll make you take all your jewelry off. So if you don't want to take it in there, you want to just give it to your parents, I would do that. That looks like some real gold stuff. That looks like nice real gold stuff. So give them any jewelry you have, because they're going to take your property and then they'll put it in a bag and they'll put it in a locker. But I wouldn't want anything that meant a lot to me to go there. Skylar says something inaudible in jail. And Detective Carter says they will, or they'll appoint you one. That will all happen when you go to court. They'll ask you. Skylar says something else inaudible. Detective Carter says, I would imagine just give them any jewelry that you have so that you don't have to worry about it. Just make sure your pockets are empty and all that kind of stuff that might be in there, okay? There's nothing hidden in your bra. Skylar said, no. Where's the jail? Detective Carter says, it's in Lebanon. Have you ever been to juvenile court or like to get fingerprinted or anything like that? Did you have to get fingerprinted to work at the Y? Okay. It's just down in Lebanon. That's like where all the government buildings are. Did you have a passport? Okay. So you know where the buildings where you got your passport, right? On the opposite side of the street, kind of behind the small building, is where the jail is. Skylar said, will I sleep there? Detective Carter says, Skylar says, will I sleep there? Detective Carter says, yeah. Do you want any water? I'm just going to go grab some. You sure you don't want any? Skylar says, no. Where are my parents? Detective Carter says, he might just be talking to them just to kind of prepare them. Sure. You don't want a cup of water? You sure? Skylar says, what time do you think I'll see the judge tomorrow? Detective Carter said, I honestly, every court has different times and that they do the arraignments. And I can't remember what time Franklin courts are tomorrow. I know some of them are like at 11 a.m. So what will happen is you'll either go on the video monitor, like a TV monitor, you know, and you'll talk to the judge, or they'll take you up there to actually go to court. And I don't know which one it is because I hardly ever come over to Franklin court. I can't remember. But one of the two will happen. They'll pick you up in a bus, or, you know, you'll go on that video monitor sometime tomorrow. I just can't remember what time they are. I want to tell you 11, but I think that's county court. Skylar says, if I do end up staying in jail, can I have visitors? Detective Carter says, yeah, you can have. They have. You can make phone calls. You can have visitors. There's specific days and times that people can come visit you, and they have to be like, you know, they have to know, like, they have to check them out, you know, make sure, you know, whatever. Yeah, you can have visitors. You can use the phone. They have like a phone system that you can set up, that your parents can set up, and all that. You won't just like be there, you know, without being able to talk to anybody. Skylar says, will I have anyone to talk to? Detective Carter says, what do you mean? Skylar says, will I be all by myself? Detective Carter said, it depends on how full they are and where they have space. You know, sometimes like parts of the jail are just like individual like cells or rooms. Parts of it are like a dorm where you can have like a big common room. So it's really depends on where they have room to put you. I don't know how many females are in there right now. So initially you'll probably go in one of those rooms where it's just like kind of like intake stuff, and then they'll figure out where they're going to put you. I think they're going to make sure that you're safe. You know, we always try to make sure people are safe. You're young, so they'll probably keep you separate. Lieutenant Fane says, that's the... And Skylar says, I tried to cremate my baby just a little. Do you still love me? Dad says, honey, we still love you. But this is a horrible mess. Skylar says, yeah. Dad says, honey, we love you. Skylar says something inaudible. The dad says to Lieutenant Fane, you absolutely have to go? Does she absolutely have to go to jail? And Lieutenant Fane says, yeah, and that's where that ended, okay? I'm going to check the chat now to see if anybody's still here. Okay, so just buffer a little. Who's going offline? Was what an insult, Melly Mel? Brandon was on the stand today. Yeah, I don't think they're together anymore, no. Not Trey, Brandon. What's going on? I'm just trying to catch up with your chat. What is I'm just looking at what this M shell nut. What's going on here? What's going on with this M shell nut? Because I'm just looking back here and it's seeming to me that M shell nut is a troll. We didn't know this? Agitated and angry. Definitely somebody that's upset about links. Sounds like somebody I know. I see a lot of deleted messages. Never seen this person before, and yet they're in here saying all kinds of crazy stuff. I don't know. Who's saying it's a good thing you're not a cop? Who are they talking? She was attacking everybody? Just get her to freak out of here. She's definitely a troll. There were a few, who was she saying that to? Me reading or other people in here? It's a good thing you're not a cop. Okay, she's gone. Good. She was a lawyer? Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. She wouldn't answer quite. Yeah. Poor Evie. Why? She went after Evie? Oh, you were really listening to me? Good. Okay, so then what else happened? I mean, there was a lot that happened today. A lot that happened today. There was so much that happened today. You know the state rested, right? You know that they dropped one of the tampering with evidence charges. You know that I told you that the cop was in trouble, but not with this case, but he was demoted. Okay. So what they started with, they went back to Lieutenant Fain on the stand, and they, let's see here. They asked about if he got the phone from the father. He got the phone. He got the phone right then and there. They give him the envelope. Is this the phone? Yes, it's the phone. Okay. And at the conclusion of the first interview, this is the thing that's very telling. Okay. Remember the father said during the first interview, that's not what the doctors are telling us. And we thought, okay, it's because the cops told them what the doctors have said. Lieutenant Fain said that at the end of the first interview, okay, he didn't speak to one witness. He did not speak to anyone from Hilltop Obstetrics. So if he didn't speak to anyone from Hilltop Obstetrics and there was just the initial report, okay, how did the father get all of that information about the birth control? When the cops weren't even in there with that birth control stuff. And when Lieutenant Fain didn't even know about it. Where did the father get that information from? Does anybody find that funny? Weird funny? Okay. Didn't the aunt? Yes, they said that later today, but how did the father know? Okay, but right, the aunt, first of all, that's not ethical of the aunt, and there's HIPAA laws and everything, and she shouldn't be talking about, even if it's her niece, another patient there. The mother knew, but that's what I'm saying, Kat. This was all very contrived, what they did there, and the father showed that. Like, he slipped on that one, okay? So this Lieutenant Fain says, yeah, at that point they hadn't spoken to anyone. And let's see. So then they went back to, you were in the residence. Yes, you were. Did you go inside the house? Yes, I went inside the house to get the tablet because she said that's the tablet she might have looked up that stuff on. So they grabbed the tablet. And then the other thing was they talked about the bed being moved, okay, to him. They showed him pictures. They said, this is where the bed was on the 14th when you went in, but was the bed there on the next time you went in? No, the bed was moved. And let's look at where that carpet was taken out. Now, the bloody stain on the carpet in the original position of the bed is here. The bloody stain is right in the middle of the side of the bed. It's where they cut out a rectangle of carpet and padding and stuff like that, okay? So, let's see. And now they said when the bed was moved, was that blood stain completely covered? Yes, it was completely covered. Okay. So then again, they said at the conclusion of your interview and the retrieval of the baby, was that the end? No, that was just the beginning. We were getting the forensics. Again, he said, I had not spoken to any witnesses, not spoken to any of the doctors from Hilltop OBGYN. Key point. That's what I said. How did the father know what the doctors were saying? Okay. He said they were saying a different story, and they only had the initial report. So, after the first interview, he assigned Detective Carter to the case. On July 20th, they got a second search warrant for the house based on Dr. Murray based on what Dr. Murray said first about the charred bones. So you got the call from the coroner's office, the burns being, the bones burned and the missing foot, leg bones. Yes. Okay, so they searched for the first time, but they were so delicate, they were taking their time, and they were able to conduct the search and get the search warrant and conduct the search the same day because they knew time was of the essence. And let's see, did you conduct another interview with Skylar? Okay, so he said yes. He contacted the father. He arranged that second interview that we just went over. That was the second interview. You read her your rights? Yes. So they show you that part of it, and then they played that second interview in court, okay? They handed out transcripts to the jury to follow along. And the audio, like I said, was horrific on that whole thing because he didn't have his handheld recorder. Oh, thanks, Susan. Let's see here. Just the way Katie and I talked to, okay, so he did all that. Now, let me see. I don't think I have to go through anything of this because I took notes but I went over the whole transcript. And I actually listened to a lot of this while riding my bike because I did go out and ride my bike to try to clear my head with everything that I'm going through. Okay. Yep, this is all on the jail clothes. I took all my notes anyway, even though I did the transcript. Okay, so then the defense questioned and said several times you told her you did not believe she killed her baby purposefully. You did that. And then he said, I did that, but I did that to prevent the interview from stalling. I wanted to get her comfortable so that we could get the truth. Okay. And then he says, after that, did you interview eventually people from Hilltop OBGYN? Yes, he says. And then they ask him, who is Ms. Prophet? and she is Skylar's aunt. What does she do there? He believes she's the office manager for Hilltop OBGYN, okay? Now, they also start to mention about collecting the buccal swabs from Trey, Detective Carter, and he went with Detective Carter. Okay, the mother was there, and then he said, I do not see anywhere where Dr. Carter documented anything about, taking the DNA that she... Oh, he said, I don't see where Dr. Carter documented anywhere that she tried cremating the baby. No. Oh, that she didn't, that she denied. I'm sorry. He says, I don't see anything in the report with how many times that Skylar denied that she tried to cremate the baby. Okay? In the report, she says about cremation with a long lighter and flames up to the chest before putting it out, but nothing about that she denied it how many times, and nothing about in there about Annabelle being white. Did she put that in there, Lieutenant Fain? No. Okay, and she said nothing about the baby that Skylar said she didn't think the baby had a heartbeat? No, not that I've seen. He said, I don't know. And then he said, and she didn't say anything about the baby not moving. Is that, he's possibly correct that it's not in there. Nothing in the report that about Dr. Murray changing her mind about the charred bones. And then Lieutenant Fain said, well, that's not important. Well, why was it important to put it in the first place? That Sonny Boy was doing this one. Okay, but she put it in the original about Dr. Murray. Why wouldn't she put it in there that she, that was changed, that changed her opinion? And then, let's see here. Nothing in the report about the hair being found and that there was no singeing on the hair. No evidence of a fire based on my observations. I can't say, but he says the fire marshal said there was no flammable, accelerant found, nothing detected in there, right? Didn't the fire marshal say that? Okay, so, and then he said, well, none of this is my responsibility because I was not a part of the crime scene. I was only really involved in those 2 interrogations, and that's it. Okay? And then he started asking him, weren't the initial reports, didn't they tell you that these were the remains of a stillborn infant? She told Dr. Boyce the baby was stillborn, and Dr. Boyce believed her. And he says, I don't know if she believed. How would I know what she believed her or not? And then, let's see. He said, you guys started digging in the fire pit and you found chicken bones. And he says, I don't know what kind of bones they were. I know they were some kind of bones. They weren't human bones. And her dad took her back, right, for that second interview. No lawyer, correct? Correct. And are you familiar with the Reed technique? And he says, not me. Detective Carter, maybe. I don't know. But I'm not. Okay. And then, let's see. He said, ultimately, wouldn't you, he said, Skylar said so many times she did not burn that baby, right? But ultimately, she was broken down. Okay? And then Lieutenant Fain says, can you define broken down? Okay? And then they go through that whole thing that to date, your office still has Annabelle's remains, and yet you kept saying to her and telling her that they would get those back if she only told the truth, and yet your office still has Annabelle's remains, right? And you used the word cremation several times before Skylar talked about that, right? So you're giving her all this stuff, you're feeding it to her, and after you talk to her about putting out the fire, and you talk to her about how to put out the fire, right? And then did we do any type of touch DNA? Did we get anything of that on the cans of accelerants that were found at the house? Did you do any type of touch DNA testing? No. Okay, so then it says, she maintained that the baby was not alive, correct? And yet, you kept going. And, the lighters are not going to catch the baby on fire, right? If there's no accelerant. Okay, and they told you there was no accelerant. The fire marshal told you there was no accelerant, correct? Okay, and you never sent that stuff for the touch DNA. And so, let's see, Detective Carter. Let's see, Skylar even said you made her second guess herself. He says, I don't know, I don't remember that. So then they play the clip where Skylar does say that. You heard me read it, right? Okay, so they play the clip. Do you remember it now? Yes. Skylar said, I want her to be at rest. Yes. Okay, and then they started to talk about DJ Chambers, okay, that you took the swab, and then there was, now Skylar said the father was Trey, so you talked to Brandon Saylor, and you talked to him. Is it normal for people to be nervous at police interviews? Yes. Brandon had a lawyer, did he? Yes. Okay, and you have a text to Brandon about, oh, I have that, I don't know, something being back. Oh, about the belly being back. The belly's back, so they started to talk about that. His response is, sorry you had to go to that alone, babe. Okay, those were all his, oh yeah. These are Brandon's responses. But before I get to that, they stopped the questioning about DJ Chambers. And then after the jury was gone, the defense said that the whole DJ Chambers thing was done by the detectives in order to create an element of suspicion and controversy, because DJ Chambers was the only black student in that school, and they went and collected his DNA, and they said there's absolutely no reason that they should have done that. That Skylar said the father was Trey, Brandon told them the father was Trey, and where did DJ Chambers come into this? And it was just to create controversy. So, but they're not bringing that in. They didn't allow that to go in. And then we've got a bunch of texts. Oh, before we go to the text, hold on. They asked Lieutenant Fain, "Are you familiar with Blue Star?" That's the luminol stuff. He said, "Well, I was never assigned to be a detective. I'm not even in that. I'm not even in this whole thing. I'm not in the crime scene. The majority of what I did were those 2 interviews, and that's it." Okay? So he says, "I was never trained in that." And they said, "But weren't you in the bathroom? Weren't you in the bathroom when they were using it? Remember when they were laughing, waiting for that, for it to light up?" And he said, "Not for the reason you think they were laughing." So he plays the clip, and Fain says the deputy was laughing about the blood. Don't you think? And that's what the defense said. And he said, no, he wasn't. He was just surprised at how quickly it illuminated. And they said, well, household cleaners make that Blue Star light up? And at first he said, I'm not familiar with that. Later on he says, yeah, I know. He asks about the carpet padding sample. Okay. You guys said there's a lot of blood in the padding. I played sports. This is Sonny Boy saying this. I've had so many bloody noses. Okay. But, the carpet was cut. He said the blue star illuminates when household cleaners come into contact with them. You know that? This time he says, yeah. He's talking about the testimony about the footprints, the bathroom wall samples, right? They took those, didn't they? And they were negative, weren't they? He says, I don't know. I wasn't involved. I'm not part of the crime scene investigation. So, and Annabelle's blood, right, was not found in the house. No, Hilltop. You know, they pulled the pharmacy records. They gave her a script. And, you know, he was just saying, I was not sure the lane did not do anything with it. No search was ever found. Oh, he's saying that there was no search ever found for getting rid of the baby, I think he said there. No searches for baby stuff. You guys said that, but no. Skylar was up. There's something about babypedia, isn't there in the cookies? And then he says, yeah, it's something for babypedia and for Hilltop OBGYN. Then they took a lunch break. Okay, and then the judge said there's going to be more security. It has nothing to do with anything but the judge exhausting his patience with the gallery. And did you see like a bunch of people well, at least there was one that just like got up in the bed and she was like walking back and forth. It was kind of nutty. Okay. Then he says, okay, the defense, Mr. Rickers, you can begin again. So he then says, Lieutenant, you take no responsibility for anything in the investigation but those 2 interviews. Is that correct? And this is Detective Carter that was assigned to this whole thing. He says, yes, Detective Carter was in charge. He said, and you posted about this, though, on social media, didn't you? Isn't your name on social media Jimmy Crone? Yes, it is. And so he said, so, you posted about this. He says, no, okay, well, you don't have something posted in a conversation in some kind of a group about this, and you put a link there and you said, interesting read with the Richardson case around the corner, ... He said, oh, yeah, I did put that. Okay? And he says, okay, and you've had 2 charges on your conduct unbecoming of an officer, and you've had disciplinary actions against you? Yes. Okay. But he said that wasn't related to this, and this was after that. Okay. Then they have a redirect, and they go over that the discipline was not related to this case, and it was well after this, his involvement in this case was over. And they ask him that Sonny Boy brought up Dr. Boyce about the baby being stillborn, but, if Dr. Boyce told you she gave birth in her bedroom, or does that have any bearing on whether the baby, does it really have any bearing on whether she was stillborn or she wasn't? Or so, no, he said, I didn't take any of that into consideration. It didn't make any difference to me. But it did make a difference to me. What it did, he said, we looked at it because it conflicted with what Skylar told us. That's the only reason we looked at it. It wouldn't make a difference if the baby was born in the bedroom, if the baby was born in the bathroom. It wouldn't contribute, maybe in the bathroom if she was born in the toilet, but that wouldn't be stillborn. That could have killed her, but whatever. He said it wouldn't have made a difference in stillbirth. The reason they looked at it, the reason they wanted to look at it was because it conflicted with what she told the police, and so they wanted to figure out who she was lying to, okay? And then the defense had a redirect, and it said, Dr. Boyce takes notes. He said, how would I don't know. Okay, well, did you review the records from Hilltop on that? No. Did you think it might not have been important? And again, he said, the same thing again. He wasn't involved in that part of the case. And then we had Brandon Saylor come on. Now, this was incredible. Did you see this when they showed the kid? And then the judge is like, wait, is this one of the people we're not supposed to be showing? Okay, and then we're like, yeah, yeah. Okay, everybody adjust your cameras. Okay, please. We're not supposed to be, he's already shown. And then they show him in the pictures. So it's ridiculous, okay? All right. Now let's see. We have, okay, Brandon, he's attending college. So he was a year younger than her. He was a junior and she was a senior. And so now you're a sophomore. You're in your sophomore year of college. Yes, I am. I know, right, Susan? Okay. Did you go to Carlisle High School? Yes, I did. I was a junior. She was a senior. You started dating when? January 30th, 2017. Okay. Did you know her before that? He said, I knew her for roughly a month. Okay. And then you started to get really serious right away. Yes, we did. You spent a lot of time together? Yes. And then how much time did you spend together? 5 or 6 minutes, right? Oh, 5 or 6 minutes. 5 or 6 days a week. Okay, then spring break, he said, you went to Fort Walton Beach. She went with her family to Destin, and you guys drink something. Yeah, I'm making your throat dry. Is my throat sounding dry? Okay. Okay, better? Does it sound better? Okay. I don't know what's going on in the chat, but I'm like seeing like different, I don't know what happened when I was reading. At 18, you're an adult. You can go to the military. You can vote. You're driving by now. You can buy cigarettes. You can't, no, wait a minute. You can't, wait a second. In New York, right, it's, you can't even buy a lottery ticket unless you're 21. Isn't that correct? And the drinking age is 21. I don't know why she couldn't have owned up to her mess and worked for a plea deal as a juror. I'd be pissed for putting these folks through this and find her guilty. Okay. All right. So is it, I thought they raised it in New York, the cigarettes. I don't know why I'm thinking that. Okay. So they went together, you know, like they met up. They texted and they met up during the spring break vacation. And it's 19 for 6 and out. You know, I had a feeling Everybody Loves Me was somebody, that's the names they pick. It's me, Everybody Loves Me, Somebody Loves Me is their other name with an asterisk. I had a very funny feeling. I started to look at that name as soon as I came in here. I looked in here as soon as I came in here, and I tried to see if there are comments, and the couple of comments that I saw were okay, but I still had a suspicion. Everyone Loves Me is the same. I know exactly who that is. That's a horrible comment, and Yeah. They should be very pleased with themselves. It's always loved me because they think everybody loves them. That's exactly what they say all the time, that everybody loves them. Okay. So, let's see. Where were we? So did you meet up? Yes. Is this a picture of you two? Yes. How serious were you guys? Very. It's a significant relationship even though you're a year younger. And he said, yes, we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together. Okay. Did they take your phone? Yes, they did. And when they took Skylar's phone, did she start texting you from her mother's phone? And yes. Yes, they did. Okay. And hey, Kazvat. Hey, hi, Robin. I didn't see a bunch of you because I was reading before. Hey, J Bells. Hi, Mrs. Roger Rabbit. Sharon. Who else did I miss? Jessica. I missed so many of you. Yeah. Okay, so then they ask him about numbers and everything. And they say, how did you learn about what happened? Okay, when it happened, did you know she was pregnant? You went to the prom with her. Did you know she was? No, I didn't know she was pregnant. Okay, so then didn't know. Hey, happy wife, did those tortoises hatch? So she doesn't know. Okay, he didn't know. You didn't know when she was at the prom. What did you think was happening? Yeah, it was seething, Sharon, and we know exactly where it came from. Isn't that the same person that said that horrific thing to someone else? Do me a favor before we get off here. Jessica, Sharon, or somebody, grab that profile for that channel and send me the link to the profile. Okay. What do her parents do for a living? You know, I don't know that yet. So let's see. Where were we? I'm getting so confused by looking at that. Okay, so she texted you from 2 different devices, right? No, we're not there yet. The prom. What happened at the prom? She had raising of babies. You have the videos. Are they up? I'll have to look at them. Okay, so she said she had her period, or she was getting her period. She had cramps. And what were you doing? I was rubbing her back and holding her hand, kind of like she was in labor, right? But you just thought they were period cramps? Yeah, and then they show her in the prom dress, okay? And you can see. All right, okay. Can you send it to me too, Sakura? So you have the belly, and it's obvious. He said, well, and then the prosecutor says, well, I guess hindsight is 20/20, right? Do you think she looks pregnant? And she says, yeah, now, yeah, she looked pregnant. Okay, all right. And then what happened after the prom? well, she went home, and then I was texting her, and he was really needy. Like, he said, that's me looking for reassurance. He was worried that when she went to Florida, that when she went to college, she was going to find someone else, and she told him, no way, you're it for me. I could meet 1,000 other people at college, but you're the one I want. You're the one I want to spend the rest of my life with. Okay. Now, so I said, no, she's not talking about your profile, happy wife. She's talking about the profile of somebody that made a really hellacious, horrible, disgusting, lowest of low comments to someone else. I'm not talking about your profile. Okay. It's that somebody loves me person. Who somebody loves you. I'm just kind of scared. Okay, anyway. Is it that late, Joan Milano? Okay. All right, thanks. So now, where was I? So that she goes home. She doesn't text him right back. He starts getting worried. Then she says, oh, I'm sorry. I was laying on the couch. I had a heating pad or water. Would you have a heating pad or a hot water bottle? I was laying on the couch. And then he says, well, if you don't want to go, because she got him tickets, was it to the Redskins? Definitely had sex. Did you see what his screen name was on the text? Big. I guess I can say the name because it's a name. Because, yeah, how do we know? It could be his name. Big Dick Willie. That was his name. Did anybody notice that when they were showing the text in court? Did you guys see that? I'm not joking. Her name on his phone was Skylar with a little heart. Okay? And his name... Yeah, I probably can. Let me see if I don't know if I can show you. I was to say, yeah. And then, well, we'll get to it. The defense, because the defense then is thinking like, I don't want anybody thinking that sweet little Skylar put that name in there, right? So they went over who would have put that name in there. Would it have been Skylar? Or would it have been the person that has the phone? But actually, it depends, right? Because I can take somebody's number that's texting me and put in any name that I want, like pain in the arse. Okay, I can put that in someone's name that's texting me. Whatever, I can do whatever I want. Okay, so it depends on whose phone it was coming in from. And what if she was on his phone? He apparently had her passwords because he went into her Instagram and blocked Trey. And then said, let me know if I crossed a line. Okay, so anyway. Did the prosecution announce that? Because I didn't hear it announced, and then I looked up and I'm like, what is that? And I'm like, no, that is... Right, Robin, but they went out of their way. The dad was... I guarantee you that they were having sex because the mother in her text, which we still have to get to, and I don't know if we're not going to do it for tomorrow because there's a lot of text to go through, said that, like Willie, yeah, like Willie, W-I-L-L-E. So the mother was saying, like, if you want to live like an adult, which means that you're having sex with this guy, then you're going to have to act like an adult and go to the store. go to the OBGYN and get birth control. Okay. All right, so she starts, you had no idea. When did you find out she was pregnant? When everyone else did. Oh, you didn't find out till July, whatever it was? No. Now, oh, Ariel Mama, we'll put a block on that, and there are sick people that do that, really sick people, and they continue to do that, and they always say that other people are being punished by things, and yet they don't think what they're doing, what it's bringing to their life. But whatever, okay? They're sick. They're sick. Anyway. Any normal person would never make the kind of comments that were made, ever, and not think that the wrath of something is going to come down on them. Okay, let's see. So how did you find out about it, right? And you found out about it because you saw it on TV. You saw that the place had crime scene tape, and I was texting, and I was texting, and I was texting. And then, right, talking about everybody loves me. Right. Are all those kids raised in a bubble? I don't know about life in the real world. Right, and couldn't feel the baby move. And who knows if the reason that he went and blocked Tyler is maybe because what if she said when and if he did find out about the baby, like, hey, what the freak is going on, right? What if she said something like, oh my gosh, this guy raped me, or something like that, right? About Tyler, to explain it? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But anyway, there were texts from her saying, oh, please, don't leave me. I'll never leave you, but I need time. And I think that the time thing was probably like the beginning of leaving her. You have severe insomnia? Sorry, back to Ding Dong and her lover, Big Dong. Yeah, so that I mean is just craziness. So okay, he says he didn't know she was pregnant, blah 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 blah. Then he's texting her phone, but what happened? They took her phone, so she didn't get any of your text. So now she starts texting him from her mom's phone, okay, Kim, and then they have the mom's phone, so they start going through their text messages, and it's all about, no, please don't leave me, I need you, I love you more than ever, I need you more than ever, you have to forgive me, blah, blah, the whole thing, right? His parents probably explained she wasn't right upstairs, yeah, he's pulling away, right? And then the mother said, Brandon's mother, remember what she said? Brandon's mother texted me. Okay, so let's see here. Now, they asked him, did he go over to her room and help her move the bed? Yeah, he did. He went over there to clean her room. Were you ever called over there to clean a room before? They did. Yes. There's so much that was covered today, Tanya. It was outrageous how much stuff was covered today. The state rested today. The state rested. Okay? State rests. Called over to clean the room. Why'd she call you over to clean the room? I don't know. I guess it was messy. You guess it was messy? Did she ever call you over to clean her room before? No. She never called me over to clean her room. What'd you do? Well, I went over there and I threw away garbage. And I picked stuff up and put it away. And I moved the bed. You moved the bed? How come you moved the bed? She wanted a change. She needed a change. Joanne, did she really need him to move the bed? She had a brother, right? She had a brother. She had a dad. I don't know. So apparently, cleaning the room. Apparently, they said that was no big deal. No big deal, the defense said, because he also moved 2 couches that day for the parents. And nobody said that the parents were rearranging a bunch of furniture because they had felt so violated from the search that they wanted to clean and change everything up because of how violated they felt. Now, I'm not going to lie and say that people don't feel violated if you have a bunch of strangers, policemen in your house moving stuff around. Yeah, that would skeeve me out pretty much. I probably would burn everything. But, they just happened to move the bed so that it covered a blood stain. Okay? And let's see what else we have. There was something about a letter that was mentioned in the text from Florida that he didn't get, or she got sent back to her. And sent back to her. And they said, what is that about? Was that about the spring break over in Destin? Oh, no. Her family took another trip. Her family took another trip to Destin, at which time she sent a letter to Brandon. Let us be kind, please. Yes, let us all be kind. Okay, so I am going to go. Okay, here's what's going to happen. I will go over all of their text messages, just not tonight. There's a lot of them, and there's a lot from the mother. I'm going to give you the gist of them, like a paraphrase of them, and then the mothers especially are whacked. They're totally whacked out. Okay, so they have Detective Chris Wong on there, okay? The defense said no questions for Brandon. Defense had not one question. No, we're good. They had an afternoon break, and then comes back Detective Chris Wong, who works with the Warren County Sheriff's Office. He's a detective in digital forensics, and he collects data in digital devices. So they went through the whole process. How does it happen? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, we don't need to go through that. He got everything off there, and then they start throwing up pictures. Well, there are picture after picture after picture. Well, Rosie, you should, because it's happening right now. And so it's really interesting. I don't think we've covered, well, yes, we did. We covered the Tim Jones case as it happened. But really, this is, I think, the second big, we've caught little cases, but we did the Ashley, whatever her name is, that one. But I think this is probably the longest, besides the Jones case, that's actually happening in real time. And it is very interesting. Okay. So they start bringing up these pictures from the gym, right? And they bring up the text between Skylar and, I keep wanting to call him Tyler, Brandon. And then Kim's phone and Brandon, which is really Skylar. And then the text between Skylar and her mother. Okay? I'm sorry, Carolyn, not tonight. I'm here every night. He, my love, not cool. Not tonight. What, happy wife? What, I don't know what is not happening. Okay. So, did you guys watch the text and the pictures? I see. I can't look at the text. I'm losing what I'm doing now. Before the prom, before she goes to that OBGYN appointment, and they go through this thing. Who's offline? The mother's texts showed, now the defense will say that the mother wasn't showing that she was a superficial person that was only wrapped up in looks. Have I been I don't know. But that she is someone that was always like this with Skylar. And they're trying to make it seem that it's about her eating disorder. Okay? But it's definitely not. It's definitely not. Her mother's giving her diet pills. Her mother's telling her, like, you're going to be better when you get this weight off, and you got to go do another set of sit-ups and do this. Okay? She's pregnant. Okay? Go to the gym. Go do that run. Make sure you do that run. You know, even daddy said the thing about your tummy. Okay? So they definitely noticed her tummy, as they said, okay? She said, you want that dress to fit. You know, you keep doing it. Do a little extra. The dress is going to look better and better. It's going to look better and better. And, yeah, I think she gave her those slimming pills. And that's why she said the pills are really working. And she said, oh, the mother said, I know. And we're going to do this together. I think the mother is exactly the same. The mother probably takes the slimming pills. The mother probably thinks if she doesn't keep it a certain weight and look a certain way, then, you know, her life is over. And I just don't get how they noticed her tummy. Right. So there's text. I mean, like sometimes 10 of them coming through within an hour going, I was at the gym. I went on the treadmill. I didn't take a picture. I didn't have time for that, but I burned 300 calories on the treadmill. And now I'm going to do my crunches. And then mother's like, yeah, do another set of crunches. You can do this. I'm with you. You know, I always support you. Go ahead and do this. You want to look better and better. There's so many cute things that you can get to wear. The prom dress is not the only thing. Now I'm paraphrasing, but I will go through each text, okay? But the mother and the daughter are going through this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Then the mother is saying, and some of the things that they're saying just don't make sense. Just, they don't sound right. The daughter says, do I have to go to the doctor? I don't want to go to the doctor about the pills. And the mother says, no. You're going to act like and to do an adult kind of things. You're going to have to take responsibility. You know that if you get pregnant, that's going to ruin your entire life. And you're lucky you have me. Again, I'm paraphrasing. That you're lucky you have me to look after all this, because, you could be like those other girls, sleeping with everyone in town, and you know what's going to happen to them, right? Okay? And she said, you're so lucky you have me. You have your whole life ahead of you. I'm just trying to protect you. I'm trying to keep you safe. That's what I'm trying to do. So you have to go to the doctor. So she says, like, oh, I don't want to go to the boy doctor. She calls him the boy doctor. The boy doctor, and what's it going to be like? And what's he going to be like? And then she's done searches for, does an OBGYN know, or something like, does an OB, again I'm paraphrasing, know if you're pregnant when you go for an internal exam? Stuff like that she had Googled, okay? So she gets the appointment, and the mother's like, look, you could go to Planned Parenthood, but their doctors are crap there, and they're not going to take the insurance or something. I don't know, she says something else, but you should go to this doctor. He delivered you. I go to this doctor. She didn't say anything about the aunt. And that was, go to this doctor. So they went on and on and on about this. And then she's like, how long is it going to take? And the mother's like, I don't know. Stuff they were talking about at this point almost sounded like an abortion. I swear to you, it almost sounded like an abortion if you didn't know any better. It didn't sound like a gynecological exam, okay? When am I going to have to go back to him with this? You'll have to go back once a month. And it was just, the conversation was weird, really weird. And then the mother gets something that says PT is pregnant. Now, how she doesn't know is if that her sister that's there, his sister-in-law, how she doesn't know from that, or if this is a lie, whatever. If this is the sister-in-law that told her, she said she got texted something and it said PT is pregnant, patient is pregnant. So she flips the freak out. She calls the daughter, and she says, what is going on? What's going on? This is crazy. You've got to call them right now. I'm having a heart attack. And she's saying, I'll call them after lunch or something. And the mother's going, you're not going to call them after lunch. You're going to call them now. So then she calls them. She pretends she calls them because we know she didn't call them. And she tells the mother that it was a mistake. And the mother said, oh, and the mother's so naive, right? She just wants to believe what they want to believe, I guess, in her own little world. Oh my gosh. Phew. I thought it was a mistake. You don't know the heart attack I had. Do you know the heart attack I had? When I saw that, I thought your whole life is ruined. Oh my gosh, I should have realized it was a mistake. Oh my gosh. And she's going, Mom, why would they put me on birth control pills if I was pregnant? Mom, I hope you can relax and enjoy your day. I hope you could still have a good day. Please, Mom. Please, Mommy. Okay, so then Mommy's like, I'll have a good day. I just need to calm down. I was so freaked out. Okay. Yeah, Diana, yeah, right. So then, yeah. Then they had shown about the ball game, right? They asked him, well, did she go, let me jump back to Brandon on the stand. Who went to the football game? Now this kid's like, I don't really remember. You don't remember? He goes, I think Skylar, he thinks Skylar. She got it for Miss Ruthie's present. I think Skylar, and I think her mother and father. They went to the football game? Mm-hmm. And then you guys went home, and then you guys went your separate ways? Yeah. Okay. And then she says something to the mother, like days after the birth, something about running and something about she had to go and change because she leaked through her clothing. Well, probably, no doubt, because she's probably exercising like a lunatic, and she probably caused herself to lose a bunch of blood clots. This is the same reason they're telling you you're not supposed to be climbing flights of stairs, but Yeah, her mother doesn't care, okay? So, yeah, so she's definitely bleeding heavily. How she's explaining that anyone that's had a baby, it's a hell of a lot longer than your period, okay? What is she telling Brandon? Because you know that they were having relations. So what is she telling him? Yeah, no. Still have your period? Yeah. So it's 3 weeks now? Yeah. Okay, so anyway. It was just a crazy day, and the texts are really crazy between the mother and the daughter. They're the most crazy. 6 weeks of it, right? And you're not supposed to have anything for 6 weeks, and that's, yeah. But that's, I guess, where we'll leave it. I mean, like I said, I can go through the individual texts another time. They are, if you haven't seen that, watch that part of it. They do read them in court. It is kind of very crazy. Very, very crazy. The dad talks in the interview about how much, oh yeah, we went through that, yesterday I think it was, right? It's always not good. It's always not good. They don't know what she has. He couldn't do the surgery. He didn't see anything on the sonogram, but he said that she's very anemic, and that, yeah, there's not much that he can do. And I said, wouldn't, why would she be anemic like that? And you'd lie too? You'd lie too about what? Who'd lie to, Sunflower? Who'd lie? And so he gave her steroids, and he was saying, like, she could have had leukemia, but her blood work doesn't make sense for leukemia. And then he was saying, I asked if she could have, like, this, something Cocker Spaniels are very prone to, is this, IMAD, or some immune mediate, anemic something. I did get her like this supplement that somebody said worked wonders on their dog. IMHA, right? What else did I do? I mean, we're trying. Her gums are not yellow. Her eyes are not yellow. Her gums are pale. She is anemic. We know that. But with leukemia, the white blood cells would not be what they are. And her liver levels are okay so far. So there's things that aren't 100% for any of these things. And I just wanted to get her today because, I don't know. I mean, I just wanted to get her today, and I ordered her the supplement, and I'm just, I don't know. It's sad. It's sad because she was such a happy, active dog 10 days ago. And it's so sad because she just wants to be like that again. And she's so sad, and she's so tough. It's horrible. Yeah, I know she did drink water. I've given her some electrolytes in there, but I can't imagine her not here. And she's so young, and it's not right, and it's horrible. It's not Addison's. She doesn't have her blood work is not for Addison's. But he's got her on steroids, and I don't know. The other thing is, like, that I'd have to take her to a specialist to do a bone marrow to actually find out if it is or it isn't. She'd have to have a bone marrow, you know, biopsy. But he was saying it's going to be $5,000 to $8,000 to do that. And that's if you're going to put her through that, all of that suffering. Oh, I'm sorry, Paige. But I don't know. I mean, I know last night I never thought this. I thought they'd do the surgery, they'd pull a glove out, and she'd be back to her old self. I never thought I would get, and that's how it happens, isn't it? You think like you've turned the corner and everything's going to be okay, and it's just this surgery or whatever, and then you get something you never expected. And we just want her to feel good. I mean, it's all Jimmy and I have been saying to her, like, Zoe, we just want to make you feel good again, because I feel so bad for her. Yeah, I hear you, Wildlife. It's not even that. If it is that IMHA, even the people that have done that, Wildlife, some of them have done that, and their dogs have been gone in a matter of weeks. In a matter of weeks. Because lymphoma probably has a much higher long-term survival rate and stuff than IMHA, if that's what it is. Go look at the, it's not good. If that's what it is, I'm just praying that there might be some mistake, that it's not that it's... Yeah, but that's lymphoma again. This is not that. I don't know. I don't know what to do. All right, I will. All right, thanks, Janelle. Yeah. I am going to get her. I was going to do something like that, Ariel Mama, even make her some bone broth or something to get her iron up. Her iron is so low. Her iron and her hematocrit and her hemoglobin, so low. Her white blood cells are low. Your cat was diagnosed with what? With what? IMHA? Boiled hamburger and rice. Another dog had a bacteria in bowel. She has Lyme disease, and Lyme disease can be something that causes it could be the underlying cause of IMHA. Believe me, I've been poring over everything today. I wish This is never, ever what I wanted to wake up to. I thought I was going to wake up to that my dog had the surgery, got the glove out, and the dog is fine. Never thought this was it. They're sad. Everyone is sad, My daughter is so sad in New York City, doesn't know, she come home, it's horrible. And you don't know what to do. There's not even that. Wildlife, I don't know where your specialists are. We don't have specialists by us. They're hours and hours and hours away. There's not another vet in the area that specializes in anything like this. But what did Sakura say? Was it IMHA, Sakura? It was IMHA and it was brain cancer? She had brain cancer? And then how did you find out? What was she doing? Your sister's, I never heard that. She's on steroids. She has steroids. She has antibiotics. She has, she started going lame. Then she lost 3 pounds in 10 days. And then how did they find it? Did they do the bone marrow, Sakura, or? She lost like a pound and like a little over a pound. Then she was very weak. Did they do a bone marrow or did they just do it by her blood work? They tried to do a plasma, but she died in the middle of it. So they didn't do a bone marrow, they just did blood work. Kidneys are okay. Liver is okay. Oh, thank you, Ariel Mama. Hope it helps. Thank you very much. Thank you. No bone marrow. She's right here sleeping. She's in her dog. Yeah, her kidneys are, let me see. Her blood work is here and it's her red blood cells that, okay, on September 3rd, they were low at 3.99. And then on September 9th, they went down even lower to 3.60. Her HCT on the 3rd was 24.7 and it went down to 22.3. This is what concerned him. And then her hemoglobin, because he thought she was anemic from the steroids, but he said that he stopped with the steroids and that it should have come back up. And then it was the HGB was 9.2, and then it went down to 8.1 in just 6 days, so a little 1 day shy of a week. Everybody in her line, oh no. And let's see, and her white blood cells, they went down too. They were 3.85, and they went down to 3.42. And then she has something else that's low, is NEU. No, actually, that went up a little bit. It was 2.14. It's 2.16. And then she has LYM was 0.82, and now it's 0.62. EOS is low. PLT is low, platelets, I guess. And then PCT is low. Creatine, I think that's low. TP is low. And yeah, everything's gone down except that other one. You load the month of June. I don't know. It's not surgery, Sunflower. I thought she was going to have surgery. That's what we thought. We thought it was just it's not surgery. It's actually, I don't even know. We don't even have a definite diagnosis of anything. Yeah, because my daughter called him tonight, and he tells her it could be leukemia. He told us that it's, after I said IMHA, he said it might be IMHA. He said she's anemic. And then I said, well, can't she take an iron supplement or something? Because again, when you hear that, you think, okay, if she's anemic, big deal. Now we'll just get her iron built up again. Is she bleeding internally? No, it's not bleeding internally, he said. So she said that, I said, well, what would that be? And he said, I think it will be leukemia. But then I was reading about IMHA, and then, I don't know. He's saying, well, the only way you're going to know either one is you have to get a bone marrow biopsy or aspiration or whatever. And then he said, and you need to take her to a specialist. And he said, I'm telling you, it's going to be minimum of like $5,000 to $8,000. And I don't know what, if it's, I think I will, I don't know, I'll try to see if I can fax these to see if they have any other, like if something's promising. But what I've read about IMHA, it's like a no hope kind of thing. I asked about, I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, I don't know. I've searched everything today to see if I could find anything. But it's what is it? It's immune mediate. What is it? Immune mediate. I think it's hold on, I'll tell you what it is. I can't. My mind is mush today. Come on. because I was even reading about hemp oil, and they're like, oh no, if they have this, don't give them hemp oil. And it was like something, there's primary IMHA. It's immune-mediated hemolytic anemia. See, and it says, what are the causes? There are two forms of it, okay? There's a primary and there's a secondary. With primary IMHA, your pet's immune system mistakenly produces antibodies that attack its own red blood cells. Any breed can be affected with primary, but in certain dog breeds, such as Cocker Spaniels, Poodles, Irish Setters, and Old English Sheepdogs, it seems to be more common. With secondary IMHA, the surface of your animal's red blood cells are modified by an underlying disease process. See, in Sakura's case, it was the brain cancer was the underlying, okay? Drug or toxin. Your dog's immune system identifies the modified red blood cells as something foreign and destroys them. When too many red blood cells are destroyed and not replaced quickly enough by bone marrow, the patient becomes anemic. Secondary IMHA can be triggered by a variety of events that a dog or cat may experience, but exposure to a recent vaccination, flea or tick product seem to be a very common association in our experience. Now, they also say Lyme disease can be a trigger, okay? So can cancer, so can chronic infections such as abscesses, urinary tract infections, drug reactions, exposure to certain chemicals and toxins like in vaccinations, bee stings, or the tick bites, okay? And you think, okay, well then just get my dog, up on the iron, he'll be okay, right? And the symptoms are pale gums, acting tired or weak, shallow or rapid breathing, faster than normal pulse, lack of appetite, weight loss, black or tarry stools, eating dirt, okay? The first line of treatment for dogs or cats is the steroids, which she's on, okay? The addition of secondary immunosuppressants, such as cytotoxic drugs, may be indicated when the pet presents with severe MIHA, very low hematocrit, severe I can't even pronounce it, intravascular hemolysis or thrombocytopenia when this is too much. Okay, so the steroids, they say, are thought to prevent destruction of the red blood cells by decreasing the clearance of antibodies. So she's on these. She's on the steroids. So what it's supposed to do is prevent the destruction of any more red blood cells by decreasing the clearance of antibody-coated RBCs, by macrophages, reducing the amount of antibody binding, and this is so complicated. Various immunosuppressant drugs, okay, and if the above do not work for an animal's IMHA, and they too often do not, your dog or cat will be subjected to repeated blood transfusion, which is an attempt by the veterinarian to increase the concentration of red blood cells. This can be life-saving, and we're not against this procedure. However, we know of animals that have received 6 transfusions that did not save their lives. And it's said, what is the canine autoimmune animal survival rate? 20%. So, I mean, I don't know. There's a bunch of holistic stuff here. I don't even know. The goal of holistic immune something is to promote the natural creation of red blood cells. But how do you know this is just not hocus pocus? I don't know. Oh, yeah, I'm petting her, yes. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I will try to get it. Even though he was vaccinated, he went down. Yeah. Hasn't pooped yet. No, she's not whimpering. Thanks, Joe. All right, well, I don't know. I'm just gonna see. It's just not what I expected to wake up to today at all. Thought I was gonna be just the opposite. Like, guess what, guys? It was the glove, and so glad we did the surgery. Zoe's back to her old self. I don't think so. Right? Yeah, I know. Oh, thank you, Elise. Thank you. But I don't know. We'll see. I'll check tomorrow. I mean, I don't know what to do. That's like so crazy. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to do. Diana, about what, 11, what was it, 11:10, let me see, she went on 9/3. That was when she got the Lyme disease, but she was there before that. 2 weeks, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I will. If she ate dirt, could. No, I don't think her tongue is white. No. The gagging started after what I thought she ate the glove. I don't know. Shay, I'm not sure. Did you? I have to go back and check. Yeah, Larry. All right, well, we'll see. I'll let you know what happens tomorrow, but thank you for the prayers, and thank you for Ariel Mama, and thank you for Elise. Thank you. All right, I'm going to get us out of here. Thank you to all of our mods, and prayers for everyone like Avery and Angel Kelly's mom and brother and Crazy Cat Lady and everyone that's not doing well. Sharon, you're back. Sakura, I know you have stuff going on. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll see you guys. Let me end this.